In my past life, I unexpectedly became pregnant with Jianibai's child, under pressure from our elders. He married me, we spent our lives together, treating each other with respect and mutual support. I thought all the love and hate from our youth would have faded away by now. Who would have thought? I was barely cold in my grave, yet, despite being 60, he was determined to marry his first love, given a second chance. I refused to get entangled with him again, and simply left with our child. Not only that, I even found a new dad for the baby I was carrying, but Jianibai, completely out of character, shamelessly followed me around. Nuanyuan, won't you come home with me? Characters, Song Yinyuan, Jianibai, Song Yinyuan, you're pregnant. I opened my eyes to a cacophony of voices, loud and boisterous. I had just walked out of the examination room at the hospital. Dazed, I sat on a clinic chair in the hallway, my eyes fixed on the test results in my hand. The report showed I was pregnant. My fingers suddenly clenched the white paper, leaving a deep imprint. I was reborn to the time right after I found out I was pregnant. In my previous life, I had a one-night stand with Jianibai because of a drugged drink. As a result, I unexpectedly became pregnant with Jianibai's child. When the news reached Jianibai's parents, they forced him to marry me. Back then, I told him, if you're not willing, I'll leave. Jianibai was silent for a moment. Then whispered, I'll take responsibility for you. And so, Jianibai and I lived our lives together, treating each other with respect and supporting one another until the very end. Everyone envied how Jianibai and I grew old together, hand in hand, throughout our lives. I always thought that the love, hate, and drama between Jianibai and me from our youth would have faded away by the time we reached old age. Who would have thought that after my death, before my body was even cold? Jianibai, at the ripe old age of 60, would still insist on marrying his white moonlight. On the 7th day after my death, my spirit returned. What I saw instead was a beautifully decorated, joyous wedding ceremony. 2 elderly people, both over 50, dressed in matching bride and groom outfits, with all eyes on them, their hands clasped tightly. They walked slowly but steadily towards the sacred wedding altar. I will never forget those 2 faces, Jianibai and Lin Wenxi, his first love. I was reborn, their love transcended worldly expectations, yet, the pain was etched deep into my very soul. Large, heavy tears streamed from my eyes, soaking the medical report in my hand. I wiped away my tears, hastily tore up the medical report, and threw it into the trash can. I hadn't walked far when I bumped into Jianibai. His gaze met mine, then he quickly looked away, as if he'd been burned. After our unexpected night together, we agreed to pretend nothing had ever happened between us. But the way he looks at me now, it's clear he hasn't forgotten about it at all. He had remained chaste for years, devoted to his first love, and it only took me one night to ruin his purity. It's only natural for him to hold a grudge. I pretended not to notice him, quickening my pace as I brushed past. His gaze swept over my back, then quickly retracted. It wasn't until I burst out of the hospital that I could finally breathe. In my previous life, when I first discovered I was pregnant, I was a nervous wreck, completely lost and overwhelmed. I was walking down the hospital corridor, completely distraught, clutching my test results. Then, I unexpectedly bumped right into Jianibai. My test results scattered all over the floor. I didn't have time to stop Jianibai from bending down to pick them up. The black text on a white background came into Jianibai's view. He suddenly widened his eyes, staring blankly at me. After a long pause, he rasped, "You're pregnant." The truth was undeniable, and I was speechless. I remember it vividly. I frantically tried to escape. Jianibai grabbed my hand. He said in a deep voice, "Saninua, let's talk." Seeing Jianibai's number, my fingers instinctively answered the call. This was a habit I picked up in my previous life. I never once refused to answer Jianibai's calls. The moment I picked up, I was filled with regret. Jianibai's cold voice came through the line, "You're pregnant, Saninua, let's talk." My body instantly froze, unable to move. After a long pause, I croaked, "Okay." When we met, I saw Jianibai's medical report on the table. The white paper, which I should have torn up and thrown in the trash, was now perfectly pieced together and laid out before me. I instinctively asked, "Did you pick that up?" Jianibai was silent for a moment, then awkwardly mumbled, "MHM." The corners of my mouth couldn't help but slowly curl upwards. To think that the esteemed CEO of the Jian Group would one day be rummaging through a trash can, but the thought of why he was here today made the smile on my lips turn bitter. The room fell silent, Jianibai and I just looking at each other, speechless. After a long moment, Jianibai said coldly, "Get rid of it." My heart ached as if in a spasm. This was the outcome in my previous life too. He didn't acknowledge the baby I was carrying and casually told me to get an abortion. I agreed in my previous life, but this time, I won't. I gently caressed the child in my womb, my head bowed. In my previous life, I personally raised the child in my womb to adulthood. She was a girl, bearing a striking resemblance to Jiani Bai, obedient and exceptionally capable. With a strong business acumen, she single-handedly took over the group when she grew up. After I died, Jiani Bai and Lin Wenxi were planning to get married. She threw a huge fit, vehemently opposing it, even going so far as to disown Jiani Bai as her father. On the 7th day after my death, Jiani Bai and Lin Wenxi held their wedding, dressed in black mourning clothes. She burst in, carrying my memorial photo. She utterly trashed the wedding venue, leaving it in a shocking state of disarray. It completely humiliated Jiani Bai and Lin Wenxi, making them a laughingstock. The last thing I remembered from my past life was her, with disheveled hair, bloodshot eyes, and a look of furious resentment. My nose immediately stung, and my eyes welled up. How could I ever bring myself to abort her? This time around, I still want to rekindle the mother-daughter bond we shared in our previous life. I looked up, my eyes filled with determination. The words "I don't want to" were on the tip of my tongue, but the moment my eyes met Jiani Bai's indifferent gaze, I snapped back to reality. Jiani Bai would never agree. The only reason he tolerated my child in our previous life was due to pressure from his parents. To him, this child was a mistake, a stain. He wanted to correct this mistake and remove the stain. As long as this is kept completely under wraps, no one will ever know about the entanglement between him and me. He could also pursue Lin Wenxi, his white moonlight, without any reservations. I gritted my teeth and nodded, playing for time. He took me to a private hospital he had arranged beforehand. Just like in my previous life, the doctors believed the fetus was too young for an abortion, and Jiani Bai made the exact same request as before: "Move in with me, and I'll take care of you." My expression froze for a moment. Jiani Bai and I were high school classmates. Throughout high school, I kept my crush on him a complete secret, but we were never meant to be. After graduating high school, Jiani Bai and I lost touch completely. It wasn't until a class reunion many years later. He drank a spiked drink. Disoriented, he pulled me, a passerby, into the room, and we had a one-night stand. It was only because of an unexpected pregnancy that Jiani Bai and I reconnected. After he offered to take care of me in my previous life, I agreed, because of my secret feelings for him. At first, I just wanted to spend our last moments together by his side, to fulfill the regrets of my youth, but slowly, I fell for him. But when I realized his heart belonged only to his first love, I chose to let go, too. Yet, Jiani Bai actively chose me. My mouth tasted bitter. In this life, I will end the mistaken entanglement between Jiani Bai and me. I turned down Jiani Bai's offer. He looked stunned for a moment, then added, "Don't misunderstand. After all, the child in your belly is mine. And as long as it exists in this world, I will fulfill my responsibilities." I couldn't help but let out a bitter laugh. In my previous life, the word Jiani Bai used most often with me was responsibility. I knew Jiani Bai didn't love me, so I kept my feelings in check and maintained my distance from him. But when Jiani Bai gave up his first love and chose me instead, all my defenses crumbled. I married him. Throughout my life, Jiani Bai diligently fulfilled his responsibilities. As my husband, he treated me with respect and affection, and we lived in harmony. As a father, he was loving and devoted to our children, but he didn't love me. That's why, after I died, he couldn't wait to reconcile with his true love. In this life, I no longer want to be an obstacle between him and his true love. I earnestly told him, "Mr. Jian, I can take care of myself. Living together will only lead to misunderstandings about our relationship. You wouldn't want the people you care about to hear such gossip, would you?" Jiani Bai's expression suddenly stiffened, as if something had just occurred to him. I said calmly, "Mr. Jian, it's best if we don't see each other much after this. You're too conspicuous, and we're from different worlds. I don't want people gossiping about me because of you." Jiani Bai's gaze swept over my stomach, and he looked remorseful. "I'm sorry. I've caused you trouble. I'll be more careful." I nodded and added, "Well then, Mr. Jian, contact me again on the day of the surgery." With that, I politely declined Jiani Bai's offer to walk me home and quickly made my escape. Back at my rented apartment, I continued packing my bags. This scene mirrored a moment from my previous life. In my past life, I had accepted Jiani Bai's suggestion to move in together. That very day, I moved into Royal Water Bay, a property owned by Jiani Bai. Royal Water Bay was predominantly home to ultra-rich elites and celebrities, people who seemed utterly out of reach. I felt completely out of place there. coupled with the unexpected pregnancy, I was feeling down and incredibly anxious. Jiang Yibai keenly sensed my unease. During that period, he'd stay by my side whenever he wasn't working, even if we sometimes sat in silence, not exchanging a word. Just having him there made me feel at ease. It was precisely because we were inseparable that someone recognized him. Gradually, rumors about us started to spread like wildfire. To outsiders, I seemed more like Jiang Yibai's kept woman, and so, when Jiang Yibai's first love, Lin Wenxi, returned to the country, I became the target of much ridicule and mockery. But in this life, I no longer want to be entangled with Jiang Yibai. I packed all my belongings and left the city overnight. The train rattled on through the night. When I got off, the sky was just turning a pale gray, with the first hint of dawn. The town before me was idyllic and beautiful, a picturesque haven far from the madding crowd. This is the place I chose to start my new life. My sudden departure was like a small stone dropping into a deep pool. The ripples it created vanished in an instant. My colleagues at work never contacted me again after their initial condolences. After a period of concern, good friends simply returned to their own lives, and Jiang Yibai, after our last parting, thoughtfully didn't disturb me. I'd only catch fleeting glimpses of Jiang Yibai in the financial news. He and I were never meant for the same world. In my past life, we grew old together, yet, our hearts never truly connected. When I saw the news of Lin Wenxi's return flooding the internet, I smiled with a sense of relief. Without me in his way, Jiang Yibai should finally get what he wants this time around. We go our separate ways, find joy in our own lives, become strangers, and never meet again. This is the path he and I were always meant to take. I'm simply correcting the mistakes we made in our previous life. My only selfish desire is for the child I'm carrying. Jiang Yibai's call, however, abruptly caught my eye. My fingers trembled uneasily. The phone rang for a long time before I finally mustered the courage to answer it. Jiang Yibai's voice reached my ears. Nuanyuan, where are you? Strangely, I could sense the unease and urgency in his voice. I glanced at today's date. Today was the day we had scheduled the abortion. No wonder Jiang Yibai is so anxious. His first love is back in the country. He's already desperate to get rid of the problem in my belly, but the child in my womb, he can't touch. My silence must have lasted too long, because Jiang Yibai anxiously pressed, Nuanyuan, tell me where you are. I'll come find you right away. I heard the sound of a car door unlocking on the other end of the line. I spoke up to stop him. Mr. Jiang, don't come looking for me. The child in my belly has nothing to do with you. She's just my child, and you don't need to be responsible for her. From now on, please don't disturb my life anymore. Jiang Yibai's voice trembled. Nuanyuan, what are you talking about? I took a deep breath and told him coldly, Jiang Yibai, listen carefully. I'm keeping the baby, and you and I are done. Don't come looking for me, and I won't bother you with the child. With that, I hung up the phone. Jiang Yibai's voice abruptly cut off in my ear. I gently touched my slightly bulging belly. I remembered in my past life, my daughter sacrificed herself to ensure my dignity and peace of mind after my death. She bore the infamy of being disloyal to her own family, all to ensure Jiang Yibai and Lin Wenxi's reputations were ruined and their lives filled with unrest. This time, it's my turn to protect her. The phone rang again. I'd blocked Jiang Yibai's number, but it wasn't Jiang Yibai calling. I answered the phone, and a gentle, kind voice spoke into my ear. Hello, is this Ms. Sonyanua, my dear? Don't worry, I'm Jiang Yibai's mother, and I'll make sure things are set right for you. My eyes immediately welled up. Jiang Yibai's parents cared for me as if I were their own child, in my previous life. On this very day, Jiang Yibai's parents rushed over after hearing the news. They ordered the surgery to be stopped. They were furious with Jiang Yibai. Jiang Yibai's parents are quite traditional. They believed that even though Jiang Yibai didn't intend to, he had, in fact, ruined an innocent girl's reputation. If Jiang Yibai weren't their son, they would have called the police themselves to put this rapist behind bars, to atone for his mistake. They strongly insisted that Jiang Yibai take responsibility for me. Back then, Jiang Yibai and Lin Wenxi were the couple everyone rooted for. Because Lin Wenxi was Jiang Yibai's first love and his white moonlight, they broke up years ago due to some misunderstandings. Lin Wenxi went to Germany to study, while Jiang Yibai remained in China. But everyone knew that Jiang Yibai had remained chaste and virtuous all these years, simply waiting for Lin Wenxi to return to the country. So, once my existence was revealed, I faced a lot of scorn and ridicule. Outsiders were convinced that with the white moonlight back, I, the canary in a cage, would be kicked to the curb. No one ever expected that Jiang Yibai would ultimately choose me. When Jiang Yibai himself admitted he was willing to take responsibility for me, I foolishly thought he had fallen for me. Now that I think about it, He probably chose to take responsibility for me and the baby I'm carrying due to pressure from his elders. At this moment, facing the warm and solicitous concern of Gianni Bai's parents, my throat tightened, and I couldn't utter a single word. I frantically hung up the phone, but the person I was trying to avoid still found their way to me. Gianni Bai's parents were the first to find me. Even before Gianni Bai himself, I was confident I could evade Gianni Bai, but there was no escaping his parents, who were far more cunning than he was. Seeing Gianni Bai's parents standing guard at my door, I froze, my limbs turning to ice. In my previous life, Lin Wenxi found out about me. She and her cronies harassed me, both overtly and covertly. Eventually, things blew up, and the news of my pregnancy got out. The news reached Mr. and Mrs. Jiang. They immediately intervened to stop me from having an abortion, but this time, I kept my pregnancy a complete secret. So how did Mr. and Mrs. Jiang find out? I voiced my doubts. Jiang Yibai's mother had a gentle smile on her face. Yibai used the private hospital under the Jiang group to check on you. A few days ago, the old man went there because he wasn't feeling well, and he unexpectedly discovered that Yibai, that rascal, had arranged an abortion for you. Jiang Yibai's mother sighed. She took my hand and said earnestly, I know you've been wronged in this matter. Since it's my son's mistake, I will make sure he takes responsibility for you and for the child in your belly. Instinctively, I frantically pulled my hand away. I opened my mouth, a mom almost escaping, but I swallowed it back down. For this lifetime, I'm determined to have absolutely no connection with Jiang Yibai, or with the Jiang family. I bit my lip hard, my face calm. Mrs. Jiang, you might be mistaken about my relationship with Jiang Yibai. There's no possibility between us. If the Jiang family truly wants to compensate me, then please let me and my baby leave. I guarantee that in the future, this child will have no ties to the Jiang family whatsoever. Jiang Yibai's mother stared at me intently, her eyes deep and unreadable. She whispered, my child, are you truly sure about this? Do you realize how difficult it is for a single woman to raise a child on her own? I thought back to every moment I had shared with my daughter in my previous life. My daughter once told me herself that she was a mama's girl. 3. Whether in poverty or wealth, all she ever wanted was to be with me, never to be apart. In her previous life, she made that a reality. No matter how old she got or how far she could fly, she never stayed away from me for long, until I succumbed to illness, separated from her by life and death, never to meet again. My resolve solidified. I nodded emphatically. Mrs. Jiang, I won't regret my decision today. Mrs. Jiang sighed regretfully. Although this is our first meeting, I truly like you. If only you could. She paused, then stated solemnly, the Jiang family respects your decision. No one will stand in your way, and I sincerely apologize to you on behalf of that rascal of ours. She handed me a bank card. Please take this card. It's a small token of our apology. If you and your child ever face difficulties in the future, please come to us. We will help you, no matter the cost. My eyes suddenly welled up. I knew in my previous life that Zhang's parents were truly good people. Regarding my marriage to Jiang Yibai, their answer was clear. If I didn't want to marry him, they would stand by me, respect my decision, and the Jiang family would unconditionally provide me with any compensation. I shook my head and pushed the bank card back. I caressed the child in my belly, my eyes filled with happiness. Having this child is enough for me. No sooner had the words left my lips than the door was violently flung open with a bang. Jiang Yibai's figure came into my view. His clothes were disheveled, and he rushed towards me, his eyes fixed intently on mine. The look in his eyes was filled with worry and unease, as if he feared everything might suddenly fall apart. I stood frozen in place, unable to move. Jiang Yibai, however, strode purposefully towards me, stopping with a controlled halt right in front of me. He choked out, Nuanyuan, please don't go. Won't you come home with me? Zhang's parents considerately left the room. In the quiet atmosphere, Jiang Yibai and I exchanged glances. I could feel Jiang Yibai's gaze fixed intently on me. In his eyes, I saw a complex and profound longing for me. It was so intense it sent shivers down my spine. Jiang Yibai suddenly knelt down on one knee before me. He was like a diamond ring held in the palm of my hand. He looked at me, and with great earnestness, asked, Nuanyuan, can you make a home for me and our child? My lips were pressed together, and my eyes were red-rimmed. This ring was very familiar to me, in my previous life. This was the very same ring I wore on my middle finger. I wore it for decades. It stayed firmly on my middle finger until my death, buried with me in the earth. But in this life, I don't want to wear this ring that bound me for an entire lifetime anymore. I stared intently at Jiang Yibai. I found myself unable to comprehend the person he was now. In my previous life, Jiangyibai never proposed to me, nor did he ever confess his feelings. As for me, his only words from beginning to end were, "I will take responsibility for you and our child." I always suspected Jiangyibai didn't love me. Jiangyibai and I didn't have a grand, lavish wedding. To accommodate my advanced pregnancy, the Jiang family's banquet was limited to close relatives and friends from both families. The media and Jiang family's business partners were all turned away. Rumors even circulated that I wasn't well liked within the Jiang family. Everyone mocked me, saying I used my pregnancy to secure my position, convinced that once the baby was born, the Jiang family would kick me out. The day after these whispers reached my ears, Jiangyibai took my hand and snapped a photo. Our clasped hands both wore matching wedding rings. The photos were personally posted online by Jiangyibai. His caption read, "My Mrs. Jiang." This caused quite a stir. Everyone knew Jiangyibai was doing this to legitimize my position. My heart instantly melted. I don't care what others say about me. What I care about is whether he truly cares for me. I thought he did care for me, so I boldly approached Jiangyibai, actively trying to close the distance between us. But he stiffly pushed me away. He said, "No need to thank me. This is my responsibility as your husband." Those words were like a bucket of cold water poured over my head. Completely extinguishing my enthusiasm, I snapped back to reality, staring blankly at Jiangyibai, who was kneeling before me, proposing. Deep down, I kept telling myself over and over again, it was all an illusion. Jiangyibai doesn't love me. Everything he's doing now is out of a sense of responsibility. Under my distrustful gaze, Jiangyibai's expression visibly panicked. He anxiously stood up and added, "Nuanyuan, I'm serious. This has nothing to do with my parents. Nothing to do with the baby you're carrying. This time, I'm doing it willingly, because I like you." His voice paused, then he emphasized forcefully, "No, it's because I love you. Song Yun Yuanyuan, I love you." Love. I gave a wry smile. In my previous life, Jiangyibai never told me he loved me. I once accidentally overheard a conversation between him and his best friend, my childhood friend, sticking up for me, asked, "You married Song Yinan, what about Lin Wenxi?" Jiangyibai was silent for a long time. After a while, he only uttered two words, "Loved her." Those two words hit my ears, and my nose suddenly stung. I just couldn't suppress the bitter ache in my heart. Jiangyibai once openly admitted, in front of others, that he loved Lin Wenxi. Yet, later, we spent our entire lives together, and not once, until my dying breath, did I ever hear him say he loved me. Now, in this new life, Jiangyibai claims he loves me. I don't believe in his love. I don't need it, and I certainly don't crave it. Feigning indifference, I said, "Jiangyibai, I don't love you." As those words left my lips, the light in Jiangyibai's eyes shattered, his jawline tensed, and his lips trembled, as if he couldn't bear to accept the truth. His voice was filled with unease, weak and trembling. "How could this be? Nuanyuan, how could you not love me?" I scoffed. "Mr. Jiang, even if you were RMB, there would still be people who don't like you. Why do I have to like you?" Jiangyibai's face paled for a moment, and he stood rooted to the spot, at a loss. I didn't want to continue this meaningless entanglement with him. I reminded him, "Mr. Jiang, you are the one who wronged me. I don't want anything else, just the child in my womb. If you want to atone for your mistakes, then please don't disturb my child and me. I will take the child and go far away," I threatened. "Your parents have already agreed to this point. In my previous life, Jiangyibai only married me because of pressure from his parents. This time, with the support of the Jiang family parents, I should be able to take my child and live the life I want, just as I wished." Jiangyibai's eyes darkened slightly as he grabbed my hand. He pleaded humbly, "Nuanyuan, please, just give me one chance, even if it's just." His voice was filled with bitterness. "Even if it's just to give a child a complete home." Sure enough, from beginning to end, all he ever thought about was responsibility. I decisively pulled my hand away from his. Turning back, I said coldly, "Mr. Jiang, love cannot be forced." After that, I added, "Mr. Jiang, I wish you and Ms. Lin a reconciliation and a fresh start." Jiangyibai's pupils suddenly dilated. He cautiously asked, "Nuanyuan, is it because of her?" I don't care what he says. I had Jiangyibai's parents take him away. I returned all the compensation the Jiang family offered me. I breathed a sigh of relief now that everything had settled. It wasn't until this moment that I truly felt alive again. I touched my slightly swollen belly, tears of joy streaming down my face. Around my 4th month of pregnancy, I started experiencing severe morning sickness. I have no appetite. I can't swallow anything. Even if I force myself to eat, I'll just take a bite and then spit it out. I've been through something like this in a past life. I'm clearly hungry. And I know the baby needs nutrients, but I just can't eat anything. Even the therapists the Jiang family hired were at a loss. I kept blaming myself, and soon I was crying in distress. Jiang Yibai put aside his work and stayed by my side day and night. He wiped away my tears and softly said, "Don't cry. We have a private doctor on call. The baby will be fine. If you don't feel like eating, then don't. Please don't force yourself, okay?" Jiang Yibai gazed into my eyes, his look tender and doting. It almost made me believe, for a moment, that he was in love with me, as if, in that very instant, he loved me with his whole heart, unconditionally. Later, he took me for a walk, and we passed by a street vendor selling stinky tofu. For some reason, I suddenly had an intense craving, but the Jiang family's nutritionist had long forbidden me from eating these unhealthy and unsanitary street foods. I resisted the urge. Looking back longingly with every step, I walked home. Torn and hesitant the whole way, and by the time I arrived, my eyes were noticeably red. Jiang Yibai's thumb brushed over my eyelids. He gently coaxed, "Don't sulk anymore. It's not that I won't let you eat it, it's just that the stuff outside isn't hygienic. I've already had our housekeeper make some for you." I couldn't help but burst into laughter through my tears. Later, because I developed a craving for stinky tofu during my pregnancy, our housekeeper ended up making it for me again and again. Over time, the kitchen always reeked of stinky tofu, so much so that the kitchen's range hood was running 247 without a break. I felt like I was pregnant in a past life. In this life, even though I'm on my own, but I handled it with relative ease. As the months passed, my belly grew heavier. To ensure nothing happened to me or the baby, I decided to hire a nanny. The day the nanny came for the interview, I opened the door to find Jiang Yibai standing there, eyes red-rimmed. Jiang Yibai sent away the aunt who came for the interview. He asked me in a hoarse voice, "Nuanyuan, can I take care of you myself? I'm a father too." My face fell, and I was trembling with anger. I gritted my teeth and said, "Mr. Jiang, the child in my belly has nothing to do with you. Please don't disturb my life." I was so furious. I just wanted to slam the door shut. Jiang Yibai, quick as a flash, blocked it with his hand. He gasped, a vivid red mark already appearing on the back of his hand where it had been caught by the door. Instinctively, I eased up on the pressure. Jiang Yibai's voice trembled. "Nuanyuan, I can't deny that Lin Wenxi is indeed my past, but now, there's absolutely nothing between us. You're the only one in my heart. I won't have any contact or involvement with her ever again." Jiang Yibai's eyes shone with hopeful light. "Nuanyuan, please, let me stay and take care of you." "Okay," I replied indifferently, "that has nothing to do with me." Jiang Yibai looked at me with a hurt expression. This time, I didn't go soft. I pushed him away and slammed the door shut. Jiang Yibai stayed by my door, refusing to leave. Dusk settled, the night was cold as water, and the chill was biting. I'm standing on the second-floor balcony. His headlights are on, and I can spot them instantly. Through the lowered car window, I can clearly see the clean, smooth lines of his profile. As he works, he occasionally glances in my direction. His expression softened the moment he saw me standing there. It was as if he lingered, just to steal a few more glances at me. My heart ached with a bittersweet pang. Big Data kept pushing me updates about him and Lin Wenxi. In this life, no one knew about the entanglement between Jiang Yibai and me, except for his parents. But strangely, there was still no progress in Jiang Yibai and Lin Wenxi's relationship. Someone playfully brought up Lin Wenxi, calling her Jiang Yibai's white moonlight. Yet, Jiang Yibai's expression turned cold. He retorted publicly, "She's not. We're ancient history." At his words, many people looked at Lin Wenxi with a hint of mockery in their eyes. For years, Lin Wenxi had always presented herself as Jiang Yibai's white moonlight. Whenever someone brought up her ambiguous relationship with Jiang Yibai, she would just smile without saying a word. During her years studying in Germany, even across the vast ocean, Jiang Yibai would always send someone to deliver her gifts precisely on her birthday, and she always accepted them. Thus, the rumor that she was Jiang Yibai's white moonlight became widely accepted. However, this time around, after Lin Wenxi returned to China, Jiang Yibai's attitude towards her had noticeably changed. Lin Wenxi couldn't hold back any longer. Just a few days later, Lin Wenxi personally visited Jiang Yibai's parents. Soon after, news subtly began to spread from Lin Wenxi that the Lin and Jiang families were about to form a marital alliance. The news eventually reached Jiang Yibai's ears. He immediately clarified to the media, "The Jiang family has no intention of a marriage alliance with the Lin family. I already have someone I like, and I don't want this rumor to cause any misunderstanding with that person." Instantly, the internet was abuzz with speculation. Many people mocked Lin Wenxi for her self-delusion, forcing her to close the comment section on her Weibo. Later, Lin Wenxi went to the company to confront Jiang Bai. She, who once moved freely through the company, was stopped at the building's entrance this time, unable to even set foot in Jiang Bai's office. In the reception room, she and Jiang Bai had a huge fight and parted ways on bad terms. From then on, no one would ever misunderstand the relationship between Jiang Bai and Lin Wenxi again. I put my phone down, a strange feeling lingering in my heart. Where did things go wrong? Jiang Bai and Lin Wenxi's story didn't unfold like this in my previous life. In my past life, even after I married Jiang Bai, he never completely cut ties with Lin Wenxi. For the first few years after I married Jiang Bai, people in our circle treated me with outward respect, but privately, they all looked down on me. Everyone was rallying to Lin Wenxi's defense. In front of me, they'd openly bring up Jiang Bai and Lin Wenxi's past, which really got under my skin, to the point that for a while, I cut off all social contact and focused solely on raising my child at home. Yet, during that period, I kept hearing news of Jiang Bai and Lin Wenxi attending events together. Photos circulating online showed Jiang Bai and Lin Wenxi standing side by side, a perfect match in looks and demeanor. Netizens conveniently overlooked the fact that Jiang Bai was already married, enthusiastically shipping the two of them. Seeing these updates, my heart ached. So many questions and doubts welled up, but I couldn't bring myself to voice them. I was afraid I'd only make a fool of myself. Even in my sleep, in the middle of the night, I'd still find myself whispering tearfully about it. Jiang Bai shook me awake. I woke up to Jiang Bai's somber, yet sympathetic gaze. He said earnestly, "Nuanyuan, don't believe the rumors out there. Lin Wenxi and I are just friends. You and our child are the most important people in my life, and I'll protect this family." I sobbed uncontrollably in Jiang Bai's arms. Jiang Bai was true to his word. No matter how much gossip swirled around them, he always maintained a respectful and appropriate friendship with Lin Wenxi. Time flew by, yet I remained by Jiang Bai's side. Everyone believed that Jiang Bai truly loved me. I also thought Jiang Bai loved me. Not until after I was dead, on the 7th day, when my soul returned, I saw Jiang Bai and Lin Wenxi standing side by side, just as they always had, but this time, they were lovers. It was then I realized Jiang Bai had never loved me. He stayed with me his whole life out of a sense of duty. He and Lin Wenxi were the ones truly in love, a pair of soulmates destined never to be together. I bit my lip. Every time I remember that scene, my heart aches terribly. 5. But this time, I've completely let go of the past. I refuse to be an obstacle between Jiang Bai and Lin Wenxi. Whether they end up together in this life or not, it has nothing to do with me. I called Jiang Bai's parents. The next morning, Jiang Bai was nowhere to be seen downstairs. Instead, a delivery person started bringing nutritious meals to my door every day, rain or shine, without fail. I never accepted a single one. After a month of this standoff, the meal deliveries finally stopped. By the 7th month of my pregnancy, my belly had swelled up like a balloon, and I felt increasingly heavy and cumbersome. To ensure my baby's healthy development, I made sure not to sit for too long. Every morning and evening, I'd take walks near my home, making sure to avoid crowded areas. The nanny we hired also stayed by my side, taking meticulous care of me. One day, I saw Jiang Bai secretly watching me from a distance. He looked exhausted, his eyes bloodshot, and his usually immaculate suit was disheveled. It seemed like he had snuck out. After that last phone call I made, Jiang Bai had been put under strict watch by his parents. Jiang Bai's uncooperative attitude even led his parents to send him abroad on a business trip. Feigning indifference, I met Jiang Bai's gaze naturally before looking away. He watched me silently for a long time, his dark eyes filled with sorrow. He didn't approach to disturb my peace. In the end, he was forcibly taken away by people sent by the Jiang family parents. After that, whenever he had free time, he would travel thousands of miles just to see me. I knew he existed, and he knew that I knew he was there. We had this unspoken understanding, keeping a comfortable distance, neither of us bothering the other. The moment Auntie left my side to throw out the trash, the mineral water bottle slipped from my hand and hit the floor. My belly was so big, I tried several times, but I couldn't bend down or squat. Just as I was losing hope, a hand with clearly defined knuckles appeared in my sight. Looking up, she saw Jiang Bai. Jiang Bai's lips were chapped and pale, his eyes were red-rimmed, a look of both defiance and despair. His usually cold and arrogant voice was now incredibly hoarse. "Nuanyuan, can I touch your belly?" I paused for a moment, then slowly nodded. He carefully placed his hand on my belly, a wave of warmth spread, and I could feel his hand trembling slightly. After a while, he asked in a trembling voice, Can I listen to her? I nodded. Okay. He crouched down, gently bringing his head close to me, his ear almost touching. Thump thump thump. I could feel my daughter inside me. Vigorously waving her tiny hands and feet, Jiangibai's eyes instantly welled up, turning a deep red, his lips trembled, and a hint of self-mockery flickered across his handsome face. With a touch of bitterness, he began, I'm the one who ruined the father-daughter bond between us. My heart suddenly skipped a beat. He reluctantly stood up and whispered, I'm leaving. I watched Jiangibai's retreating figure. His back was ramrod straight, his tall frame as elegant as jade, yet a heavy sorrow seemed to envelop him, radiating boundless desolation and melancholy. I vaguely wondered when he started calling me Nuanyuan in this lifetime. Nuanyuan was the pet name he gave me in our previous life. In the 3rd year of our marriage, a few moments later, I withdrew my gaze without a hint of lingering regret. He and I are not on the same path. Before I knew it, the day of delivery arrived. I pinpointed the delivery date from my previous life and checked into the hospital a few days early. When the contractions hit, I calmly made my way to the operating room. Having gone through that ordeal, I was in much better shape than I had been in my previous life. My face was pale and slick with cold sweat, but I managed to open my eyes and gaze upon my long-awaited daughter. My newborn daughter was so strong, a tiny bundle vigorously waving her little hands and feet. A gentle tap on her bottom, and she'd let out a piercing wail, her cries echoing far and wide. As I was wheeled out of the operating room, through my blurry vision, I thought I saw Jiang Yibai. He stood a short distance away, his face etched with worry and unease. His gaze was fixed intently on me, wanting to approach but hesitant to do so. I wearily closed my eyes. In that moment, a pair of familiar large hands enveloped mine. I knew it was Jiang Yibai when I woke up. The aunt who was looking after me gazed at me, seemingly hesitant to speak. After a moment, she stammered, Miss Song, Mr. Jiang stayed by your side the whole time you were asleep. The aunt sighed. Mr. Jiang said he knew you didn't want to see him, so he left just before you woke up. I weakly hummed in response. I actually woke up at some point. Jiang Yibai didn't notice. He was too tired, even as he slept beside me. His eyelashes still trembled restlessly. The first thing I did when I woke up was pull my hand from his. He noticed when he woke up, and so, he left without a word. In the first few years after our daughter was born, he visited very frequently. He never intruded on my daughters and my life. Every time he came, he would secretly watch me from a distance. As he watched, his eyes would well up. When my daughter had just learned to walk, she fell in the neighborhood. He rushed over, his eyes red, and held her, heartbroken for a long time. His daughter didn't recognize him and cried loudly in fear. He, who never shed a tear, cried that day out of pure sadness. He wasn't even this heartbroken when his daughter disowned him in her past life. When my daughter started to remember things, I told him to stay away from her. Deep down, I didn't want my daughter to have any contact with Jiang Yibai. 6. I wanted my daughter to believe her father had been dead for a long time. A wave of sorrow washed over Jiang Yibai's eyes. After a long moment, he nodded, a pained expression on his face. He still came to see my daughter and me occasionally, but as the distance grew, so did the infrequency of his visits. Sometimes, he would just sit in his car, watching us from a distance for a few moments. After a while, the car window would slowly go up, and then he'd drive away. By the time my daughter was 5, she had fully come to terms with not having a father. One day, she tugged on a man's sleeve and brought him over to me. With the innocent voice of a child, she asked, Mommy, can this uncle be my daddy? I knelt down and gently asked her, why do you want this uncle to be your daddy? My daughter blinked her big eyes, so similar to mine, and seriously replied, because Mommy likes him. My face immediately flushed crimson. I stammered, this uncle doesn't want to be your dad. My daughter pouted, looking hurt. Uncle, you don't want to be my daddy. The man chuckled softly. I do. Jiang Yibai's extra story. I searched the entire villa from top to bottom, but I couldn't find any trace of her, nor did I find any of her belongings in this villa. It's as if she was never here. I went to the apartment she rented. I knocked on the door, and a stranger answered. She doesn't live here anymore. So, where's Songy Nua? Where is Songy Nan, the woman I spent my last life with, growing old together? Was she just a figment of my imagination? No, that's impossible. I dialed the phone number I knew by heart. The phone had been ringing for ages, but no one picked up. I was starting to lose hope. With a beep, the call connected. I breathed a sigh of relief and blurted out, Nuanyuan, where are you? I miss you so much. I long to see you. Life without you in my past life felt like an eternity. Silence on the other end of the line. My heart was filled with an extreme sense of unease. I pleaded, Nuanyuan, tell me where you are. and I'll come find you right away." Her voice finally came through, but it was a cold, heartless refusal. "She's cutting ties with me. She's going to abandon me." She hung up on me. My heart was pounding. Why is this life different from the last? I really wanted to tell her I loved her. I want to build a family with her. We'll have a sweet and capable daughter, and we'll grow old together, staying by each other's side for life. In this life, I'll make sure to take good care of her. I won't let her suffer from cancer again, caused by the prolonged sadness she experienced in her youth. By the time it was discovered, it was already too late. She voluntarily stopped her treatment. She was not even 60 when she passed away. In this life, she will live longer. Let's live to be 100 together, sharing the same bed in life and the same grave in death. But I can't find her. My parents were the ones who told me about her. I prepared the exact same ring as in my previous life. I'm going to propose to her. I'm going to hold on to her tightly and never let her go again. But she said she doesn't love me. How could Song Yinua not love me? She's the person who loves me most in this world. She had my parents forcibly take me away. Before she left, she mentioned Lin Wenxi. I knew she must have believed the rumors circulating outside. I'll tell her. I don't love Lin Wenxi. She's the one I love. In front of everyone, I publicly disavowed any connection with Lin Wenxi. Lin Wenxi came to see me. I had the front desk stop her. If Nuanyuan knew Lin Wenxi could just walk in and out of my company, she'd definitely be upset about it. I don't want to hurt her. Lin Wenxi demanded to know why I was being so heartless. I told her, I'm seeing someone, and I don't want you to cause even the slightest misunderstanding with them. Lin Wenxi stared at me, disbelief etched on her face. I've cut all ties with Lin Wenxi, in my past life. My close association with Lin Wenxi was the very reason Nuan Nuan was repeatedly heartbroken. I can't bear the thought of Song Yinua leaving me, but Nuan Nuan still rejected me. Even the baby she's carrying doesn't want me anymore. I tried everything to get her to forgive me, but all I saw was the growing disgust in her eyes. I feel like my heart is breaking. She called my parents. My parents sent me away, out of the country. I worked tirelessly, day and night, just to finally make it back and secretly see her one last time. Her belly had grown significantly, and with no one around to help, even bending down to pick something up was a struggle. My nose stung, and my eyes suddenly welled up. In her previous life, I was by her side throughout her entire pregnancy. I never let her suffer such hardship. I couldn't help but walk closer. She looked at me with such indifference, as if I were a complete stranger, yet, I was supposed to be her husband, the father of her child. I knelt down and heard the faint heartbeat of the baby within her. I'm on the verge of tears. Is this my karma? In my previous life, my daughter disowned me. So in this life, I don't even have the right to be her father. I was the one who personally severed the father-daughter bond between us. I still miss Song Yinan terribly. I want to see her. My parents won't let me disturb Song Yinan's life. I'd sneak over every time. I'd just stand not too far from her, quietly watching. I really wanted to get a little closer, but I knew she wouldn't allow it. Once my parents found out, they never tried to stop me again. I was a nervous wreck outside the operating room the day she gave birth. My heart wouldn't settle down for a second. I knew my daughter was facing a life or death situation with childbirth. I pray to God, please keep Nuan Nuan safe and sound. My heart finally settled once she was safely out of the operating room. I wanted to go to her, but I knew I didn't deserve to be by her side. Only after she had fallen asleep did I selfishly stay by her side. Once she wakes up, I'll have to leave. My daughter learned to walk when she was 2. In the neighborhood, she stumbled and fell. My heart instantly twisted into a knot. I rushed out and embraced her, but she cried hysterically, terrified. In that moment, my heart shattered into a million pieces. 7. And Song Yiyuan looked at me like I was a complete stranger. I knew I had lost them completely. When my daughter was 5, I saw her tugging at a man's sleeve. She said she wanted that man to be her dad, because Song Yinua loved this man. I had to confront a truth I'd been avoiding for years. Song Yinua would fall for someone else, and my daughter would have another father to love her. Now I finally understand. This rebirth in my current life is my punishment. After Song Yinua married someone else, I couldn't bring myself to see her again. I don't want to cause any trouble for her or her daughter. Besides, she and her daughter were living a very happy life. I had promised her I wouldn't disturb the peaceful life she shared with her daughter. From then on, I poured all my energy into my work. As I got older, my parents started pressuring me to get married. I gritted my teeth and refused. They knew, deep down, that I still hadn't gotten over Song Yinan. I never married, dedicating my entire life to my work. Whenever I missed Song Yinan and our daughter, I'd travel any distance to see them. From a distance, I'd occasionally catch a glimpse of them. deep down, I was incredibly lonely, my life just a hollow existence. In my later years, I unexpectedly died at my workplace. I was only 60 when I passed away. This is my karma. Story 2. In our past life, Jiang-He and I spent half a century together. On his deathbed, he whispered to me, Li Tang. How I wish it had been Li Tao who saved me from the snow that day, not you. In our next life, I want to hold Li Tao's hand and grow old together. Me, then hurry up and die. Jiang-He's eyes remained wide open. He literally died from rage. All the children resented me for quarreling with Jiang-He. He passed away with a heart full of regrets. I shut down every single one of those so-called filial descendants at the funeral with sharp retorts. Eldest son, remember when you needed money to buy a house for your wedding? Know why the family funds suddenly dried up? Because your father sent all our savings back to his hometown to relocate the grave of his eternal flame. Second son, remember how you wanted your father's job back then? Know why you never got it? Because he gave it to his childhood sweetheart's nephew. Some distant acquaintance's kid meant more to him than his own flesh and blood. Little sister, ever wonder why father insisted you marry that old friend's son? Because he was the eldest nephew of his first love. I scattered Jiang-He's diaries across the funeral hall. Pages fluttered like startled birds between swaying white mourning banners. The children stood there utterly dumbfounded. Don't believe me? Pick it up and see for yourself. One by one, Jiang-He took our children to memorialize his long-lost white moonlight. Though I'd saved his life, Jiang-He manipulated me into slaving away for him my entire existence. I collapsed in sorrow and never woke again. Who could have known? The next moment I opened my eyes, I was transported back to that winter when I was 19, Qinghe village nestled in the northern mountain hollow. 1. Lintang. I really like that hair tie you bought today. Just give it to me, won't you? The 18-year-old, charming Li Tao lounged comfortably atop the haystack behind the mule cart. I asked coldly while steering the cart, just because I own something you like, does that mean I have to give it to you? Li Tao retorted bluntly, hasn't it always been this way? You're just a tall, dark country bumpkin. It wouldn't look half as good on you. Why not just give it to me? Your spineless father can't even muster a fart after 3 beatings. Doesn't he love groveling to mine? Finally, she burst into giggles, spotting Jiang-He nearly buried in the snowdrift. I cracked the whip harder, sending the mule cart careening down the road. Deal, I'll deliver that backstabbing Jiang-He right to your doorstep. Li Tao, sitting at the back of the mule cart, slipped off with a thud. She tumbled right into Jiang-He, who was curled up like a frozen snowball. Ah, help, there's a dead body. Tao, hold on, I'm running back to the village for help. My booming voice echoed across the snow-blanketed land. The biting wind crept down my throat and chilled me to the core. Damn, it's freezing out here. In my past life, I'd spent most of my years in the south. It had been ages since I last returned to my hometown to experience this frozen wilderness. The villagers quickly rescued Jiang-He and Li Tao from the snow. Li Tang, you're asking for death. How dare you leave me with that corpse? Li Tao stomped her feet and threw a tantrum at me in front of everyone. The village chief's wife passed by, deliberately turning a blind eye. The village chief was even more concerned about the rescued educated youth's condition. Everyone present considered it a perfectly ordinary matter, simply because Li Tao's father was the village chief and she was the village belle. She carried herself with an air of superiority all her life. She'd only be happy if I fawned over her. So now I'm the bad guy for not spoiling her. The barefoot doctor emerged from the house. He signaled to the village chief. The patient was saved. Li Tao clicked her tongue in disapproval. He's alive, and didn't even get frostbite. The village chief glared at her. That's an educated youth from the farm. Show some respect. Li Tao was the village chief's late-life daughter, spoiled rotten like the apple of his eye. Even without much empathy, the village chief didn't scold her. I can see Jiang-He and Li Tao's red threads of fate are entwined. Didn't even bother saying goodbye before heading home. 2. On this day in my past life, Li Tao and I were supposed to go to town for the festivities. On the way back to the village with the mule cart, Li Tao spotted someone half buried in the snow from a distance. She cursed the bad luck, running into a frozen corpse right after leaving home. It was only because I ignored her protests and went to investigate that Jiang-He's life was saved. Jiang-He later recuperated at my place. Outwardly, he showed gratitude toward me, but secretly, he'd already developed feelings for Li Tao, who kept visiting. When I learned Jiang-He was an educated youth from the city, his refined manners gave me an intellectual's admiration for him. After recovering from his illness, Jiang-He frequently returned to visit the village. Back then, I genuinely thought he came looking for me. Only later did I learn from his diary that he was actually hoping to run into Li Tao. That same October, The national college entrance exams suddenly resumed after a 10-year hiatus. Jiang He took the college entrance exam with utmost seriousness. I became deeply invested in it as well. I helped gather study materials, mend his winter clothes, and seek information about the exam. These efforts ultimately enabled Jiang He to enter the examination hall without a hitch. Jiang He accepted all my acts of kindness without hesitation, yet in his diary, he secretly vowed to propose to Li Tao at the village chief's house after getting into university. Later on, true to his word, Jiang He passed the university entrance exam. He became that 1 in 10,000 college-bound student. In the end, the village chief's family arranged for Li Tao to marry into a county household at an early age. Everyone on the farm knew about the help I'd given him. Pressured by circumstances, Jiang He had no choice but to marry me. After the wedding, when he went off to college, I waited for him back in our village. After he got assigned to a city job, I left my hometown and family to stand by his side, taking care of him. Even when he offended his superiors, I still managed to smooth things over for him, and when he made the bold decision to quit his government job and venture 1,000 miles south to start anew, I was the one who emptied our family savings to give him the confidence to pursue his dreams, assuring him I'd hold down the fort. We've weathered life's storms together for decades. I never had the slightest clue Jiang He had someone else in his heart. At every triumphant moment thereafter, Jiang He would write sentiments like, "Had Li Tao not passed so young, how joyous I'd be with her by my side." He spent his whole life mourning Li Tao, while I was just the spare tire he settled for out of duty and necessity. 3. Sis, aren't you freezing? Get inside already. My teenage brother Lidi stood shivering, holding up the heavy curtain as he waited for me to enter. Long-departed loved ones suddenly reappeared just as I remembered them. The winter wind instantly froze the glistening in my eyes into an ice crystal. It was chilling, yet heartwarming. I saw my parents after what felt like ages. I went up and gave each of them a warm hug. My mom brushed me aside. My dad said in alarm, "Sweetheart, don't pull this stunt. It's downright creepy." After I entered the room, grabbing a small mirror to check her reflection, her weathered face had a reddened nose from the cold. With thick brows and large eyes, a strikingly handsome face, I'd actually gotten younger. Li Di asked, "Sis, what are you preening for?" I asked naively. "Between me and Tao, she's the prettier one, right?" Li Di covered his face with his hands. "Of course Sister Tao's prettier. Doesn't the whole village say so?" Though Li Tao was spoiled and willful, her beauty was renowned across 8 villages. So what if I saved Jiang He's life? It still can't compete with the irresistible allure of an unattainable first love. In this lifetime, I'll let Jiang He have his way. Whether he ends up with Li Tao or not depends entirely on his own efforts. 4. In this lifetime, Jiang He found salvation in the village chief's household. The moment he opened his eyes, whether from overwhelming emotion or something else, Jiang He seized Li Tao's hand and pressed it against his own cheek. He kept muttering all sorts of bewildering things. Li Tao taught him a lesson with a stinging slap. "What the hell? I saved you out of kindness, and you dare take liberties the moment you wake up." Li Tao kept ranting non-stop, but in Jiang He's eyes, Li Tao was just like a feisty little wildcat. Even her angry huffs looked utterly adorable. "Peach, I've finally found you." Jiang He even wept with emotion when Li Tao's mother entered. She assumed Jiang He was crying because Li Tao had hit him. Later, we heard Jiang He worked as the farm's accountant. He traveled through nearby villages, crossing mountains and rivers just to complete the household registrations. Li Tao looked much better now. In her eyes, accountants were simply money handlers. "Fine, considering you nearly froze to death, I'll let it slide this time. Got it, Tao." Li Tao's mother looked absolutely livid. She pressured the village chief to send Jiang He away immediately. "A young man in his 20s shouldn't be getting handsy with your daughter, even if he's half asleep." When properly groomed, the refined and dashing Jiang He would make anyone's eyes light up in admiration. The village chief understands the impact of college entrance exam policies far better than us ordinary folks. Sitting down with Jiang He again, listening to his measured speech and familiarity with farm and commune leadership, a gut instinct to place early bets began forming. 5. I wasn't surprised to hear the village chief wanted Jiang He as a live-in son-in-law. After all, Jiang He's education, eloquence, and looks made him stand out among the male-educated youth at the farm. Compared to those frivolous suitors constantly buzzing around Li Tao in the village, he's in a completely different league. Not to mention, Jiang He had previously fabricated an impressive network of connections from the commune to county officials after our family saved him, completely dazzling my father. In this lifetime, Jiang He and the village chief probably said pretty much the same things. Naturally, it triggered the village chief's first come, first served mentality. Li Tao came to see me several times. She kept rambling in front of me, talking endlessly about Jiang He. Seeing that I wasn't responding, she deliberately said, "Tang, we grew up together. If I get married before you, would you be upset?" I tried my best to humor Li Tao's thoughts. "Your family is well off, and you're beautiful. Of course you'll have no trouble finding a husband. I'd like to stay home a few more years to take care of my parents." But Li Tao still couldn't resist teasing me. "Well, of course, I'm marrying the most famous educated youth accountant in the whole countryside. As for you, let's just say you're not exactly easy on the eyes. Maybe in a few years when all the village boys have picked their brides and there's no one left, they might finally consider you." Li Tao burst into another fit of giggles. Seeing I couldn't argue back, she left with a smug flourish of the curtain. "Li Tao and I grew up together. She's always been the flashy, show-off type. Whenever she gets something new, she can't wait to flaunt it and make everyone jealous. If you don't humor her, she'll hold a grudge and make your life miserable." Only after Li Tao left the courtyard did I fish out a history-geography reference book from the Kong. Li Di was peeking around the outer room. "Is Sister Tao gone?" "Sis, you should marry an educated man someday." I scoffed at the idea. "What's the point of marrying an intellectual? Might as well become one yourself." "True, what's Sister Tao showing off about? She just married some educated youth after all." "Me, just wait till after New Year's, then you'll see why she's showing off." Li Di didn't get it, staring blankly at the study materials in my hands. Couldn't even recognize half the words on the cover, wore the exact same dumbfounded expression as Baoqiang checking his bills. "Huh, what the hell is this even saying?" In this era, the general literacy level was quite low among the population. That's why the first reinstated college entrance exams were made significantly easier compared to later versions. In my past life, constrained by practical limitations, I shied away from taking the exams myself and instead supported Jiang He's college preparations. My whole life practically revolved around Jiang He like he was the center of my universe. And you know what? Jiang He never even gave it a second thought. He actually had the nerve to think he's the reason I lived a good life. My wife came from dirt poor peasant stock, fussy over trivialities yet clueless about real priorities. If I hadn't gotten into college and built my business down south with a mother like yours, you'd still be plowing fields in some backwater village. Men fight for dignity as gods fight for incense. I'll prove I can make my life flourish spectacularly. Jiang He or no Jiang He. 6. After registering for the college entrance exams, I went to the state-run photo studio in the county town to take my ID photo for the exam admission ticket. Never imagined the town could be this small. Out of nowhere, I ran into Li Tao and Jiang He again. "Li Tang." The radiant Li Tao stood gracefully in the middle of the street. Her presence created a striking contrast against the heavily bundled crowd and the drab urban surroundings. In modern terms, she was undoubtedly the most dazzling presence on the entire block. It suddenly dawned on me why Li Tao could linger in Jiang He's heart for a lifetime. What I saw as ordinary beauty became an eternally breathtaking memory that dazzled his years. I was about to speak, but immediately furrowed my brow. Because Jiang He stood just 3 paces behind Li Tao, laden with bundles large and small. In his past life, Jiang He juggled his day job with exam prep right before the college entrance exams. He worked like a perpetually running engine, practically steaming from exhaustion. This lifetime's about winning his beauty's heart. Now he's not the least bit anxious. "Tang, what brings you to town today?" Li Tao had already made her way through the crowd and stood before me. Her eyes crinkled into crescents when she spotted the photo envelope from the studio in my hand. "What's with the studio visit?" "No special occasion. Planning to use these for matchmaking." "Yep, this is for the matchmaking," I admitted readily, tucking the photo envelope into my breast pocket. Li Tao gave me an amused once-over with that half-smile of hers. "If you're in such a hurry to get married, why come to the county? Don't tell me your family arranged county matchmaking for you." Just then, Jiang He came panting up behind us. Li Tao introduced me with a sarcastic tone. "Jiang He, this is that childhood friend I told you about. Li Tang, she's the one who threw me off her mule cart back then. Lucky for me the snow was thick, otherwise I'd have been." I cut her off. "Li Tao, if you hadn't taken that embarrassing fall back then, would this guy be chasing after you like this now?" Li Tao choked on her words, scrambling to save face. "Then I'd say every cloud has a silver lining. Look, this is Jiang He, the educated youth I rescued. We're getting married by year's end." I stared at this pale, refined male educated youth before me, still feeling a pang of resentment in my chest. "Congratulations to you both. I meant to exchange just a few pleasantries before making a quick exit. Unexpectedly, several educated youths from Jianghe's farm spotted him and came over to say hello. One male youth grinned. "Comrade Li Tang, you're the only female high school student from Qinghe village registered for the college entrance exams. Do you have enough study materials? Feel free to come study with us at the farm when you're free." 7. The words hung in the air. Jianghe's gaze at me was full of curiosity and shock. Li Tao's eyes widened even more. "Li Tang, you signed up for the college entrance exams." The clueless male educated youth. "Yeah. We registered together at the enrollment office today." I repeatedly confirmed with the male educated youth that I was genuinely applying for the exam. Li Tao spared no effort in belittling me. "Li Tang, why are you taking the college entrance exam? A country bumpkin like you, do you really think you can pass? This is absolutely ridiculous." Several educated youths couldn't help but frown. "Comrade, must you be so harsh with your words? The papers clearly state anyone qualified can take the exam. What's so funny about that? Since when can't country folks take tests? Weren't you a farmer too?" Li Tao had never been ganged up on like this before. Her face flushed and paled alternately before she finally took out all her anger on Jianghe. "Jianghe, they all ganged up on me. Why didn't you say a single word to defend me?" Jianghe remained frozen in shock, staring at me without moving a muscle. His reaction told me everything I needed to know. Jianghe had been reborn. Li Tao hurled the gift on the floor straight at Jianghe. She turned and stormed off in a huff. Only then did Jianghe snap out of it. He seemed to have something to tell me, but with several educated youths present, he hesitated briefly before grabbing his things to chase after the already distant Li Tao. The educated youths shook their heads and murmured among themselves. "We've heard of communes barring people from college entrance exams based on family background, but this is the first time I've heard peasant children being denied registration. Jianghe's partner is so domineering. Look how he's constantly hovering around her, tiptoeing on eggshells. Living together in the educated youth dormitory is going to be a nightmare." A sense of threat crept into my heart. Jianghe must have figured out I was reborn when I signed up for the college entrance exams. That ungrateful bastard, who knows what he'll pull next. And then there's Li Tao. Since she didn't get to mock me today, I bet she'll stir up trouble back in the village. Should have checked the almanac before leaving today. 8. On the road back to the village, I sat on the mule cart, listening to the wheels creak along the snow-covered winding mountain path. It takes 3 to 5 hours on foot to cover the 10-plus kilometer journey from the village to the county town. Qinghe village is desperately poor and remote. If this village held any real promise, would generations of my family have remained dirt-poor farmers stuck in these mountain hollows? This lifetime, if Jianghe gets into college, he'll take Li Tao with him. They'll have academic success and marital bliss. What about me? Should I remarry some supposedly promising man and just wait for him to work hard enough to pull me out of this mess? Wouldn't that mean gambling my entire life on another man's conscience? Rather than pinning my hopes on yet another man, I'd rather grit my teeth and fight my own way out through the college entrance exams. My parents eventually found out about my college entrance exam registration. They're all simple, honest farmers. They don't understand how times are changing, and they're reluctant to let me take risks. Tang, you only had one proper year of high school. What made you think of taking the exam? With so many educated youth taking the test, do you really think you stand a chance? Clutching my books, I muttered under my breath. Comparison kills joy and breeds discontent. For no one else but myself, I must change my ways. There were no study guides or reference materials, yet I somehow managed to grasp the entire high school curriculum. Night and day I'd scribble on the Kong, mumbling and reciting without pause. My parents watched me driving myself into the ground. They thought Li Tao's marriage had sent me over the edge. Should we ask someone to start looking for potential matches? Fine, I'll go ask my brother about it tomorrow. 9. I've stopped going out altogether, trying my best to avoid Li Tao and Jianghe, but Li Tao clearly isn't willing to let things between us slide. She came to my house again, wearing a brand new red jacket. See this, Jianghe just bought it for me. This was the prettiest one at the whole supply co-op, cost quite a few ration coupons too. Everyone says it looks good on me. I couldn't be bothered with her, just waiting for her tantrum to end so I could leave. Li Tao looked at the books scattered across the Kong, and her spoiled princess temper flared up again. She grabbed one at random and tore it in half with a single motion. I told you to study. In the blink of an eye, over a dozen pages were torn from the most crucial review textbook. I tried to stop it, but it was too late. I only managed to salvage half the book. Li Tao kept tearing the textbook while declaring triumphantly, so you just want to get ahead, to surpass me someday, maybe even marry some educated youth while you're at it. Listen carefully. I forbid it. Finally, with deliberate flourish, countless paper scraps fluttered down before me like divine blossoms. Snap. My raised palm landed squarely on Li Tao's fair, delicate cheek with perfect precision. But the door curtain was suddenly flung aside. Jiang He burst in covered in snow, seizing my right wrist and slamming me against the wall. My right wrist cracked violently against the wall. A stabbing pain shot through me. The howling wind and snow came rushing in. It's freezing. Peach, you alright? Don't worry. I've got you. Young Jiang He whispered sweet nothings to Li Tao in his arms. He turned to see me clutching my injured wrist and glaring daggers at him, freezing in shock. What a shameless pair of lovebirds. I've already stepped aside for their romance. Why did they have to barge into my home, tear up my textbooks, and injure my writing hand? 10. Li D stormed in. Seeing me injured, he grabbed a broom and chased that wretched couple out of the house. Get out. How dare you come to my house and bully my sister? But how could a child possibly stand against two grown adults? Jiang He instantly grabbed hold of the broom handle. Li Tao's face got scratched by the broom bristles several times. Her face is her most prized possession. Grabbing Li D by the hair, she slapped him hard. First my sister hits me, and now you dare to strike me too. With that, she delivered 2 more stinging slaps. Jiang He was stunned. By the time he snapped out of it and tried to intervene, Li D's lips were already split from the slap. A pair of young eyes burning with hatred glared at them furiously. Li Tao recoiled in fear, her grip loosening instantly. I never imagined Li Tao could strike Li Di with such brutal force. With his uninjured left hand, he grabbed a wooden pole from the corner and swung it viciously at Jiang He. Wincing in pain, Jiang He staggered backward while still shielding the screaming Li Tao in his arms. Retreating through my courtyard gate. My yard is just fenced with wooden pickets and hedges. The neighbors gathered at the doorstep, all buzzing with gossip. I immediately raised my voice. Li Tao, you tore up my textbooks and threatened to stop me from taking the college entrance exam. You and your partner ganged up on us siblings. Everyone saw what happened. Let them be the judge. What gives you the right to do this? Li Tao snapped out of her daze. Noticing the accusing fingers and whispers around her, she clenched her teeth and outright refused to admit it. You're talking nonsense. It was Jiang He and I who came to announce our marriage. And you two siblings started hurling insults first. That's why I reacted. She nudged Jiang He beside her. Back me up here, will you? Jiang He stood there utterly bewildered. He never expected the pure, radiant figure in his heart could act so unreasonably and distort the truth. No better than any common shrew in the village. Li Tao prodded him. Say something. Cat got your tongue. Yet Jiang He's first instinct was to look at me, panting with rage. Wooden stick in hand, leaving him torn between 2 difficult choices. Li Tao let out a piercing scream. What are you staring at that country bumpkin for? Why won't you even say a word in my defense anymore? I couldn't be bothered to argue with this shameless pair, so I grabbed my younger brother Li D by the arm. Li D, just a teenager, had his pride utterly shattered and was already in tears. Sis, I fought back tears. What's with the crying? Come on, let's go find someone who'll hear us out. 11. We barged into the village chief's house. We plopped down in the yard and wailed at the top of our lungs. The neighbors swarmed over in a crowd, Jiang He among them. The village head's wife couldn't handle the chaos, so she quickly sent her grandson to fetch him. How many years has it been since Li Tao caused such a scene? Last time, 2 lads came to blows over courting Li Tao, and it ended up at her doorstep. Jiang He heard every word clearly. Before long, the village chief and his parents arrived one after another. His mother rushed over in haste, pulling Li D close to examine him with heartache. Who did this to you? The nail marks drew blood. These scars will stay forever. Li Tang, how could you let this happen to your brother? Mom instinctively scolded me before noticing how pale I looked. Tang, what's wrong with you now? I wasn't in the mood for talking, just for throwing punches. The village chief and the chattering villagers had gotten the full picture. Then someone yelled at the chief's wife. Where's Li Tao? She's something else. Look how she beat up Li Tang and her brother. The chief's wife muttered indignantly. Li Di's practically a grown man. How could she possibly beat him up like that? Li Di sprang to his feet, leaped onto the millstone, and shouted at the top of his lungs. It was your Li Tao who hit me. If she weren't the village head's daughter, do you think I'd let her get away with this? Not only did she barge into my house, tear up my sister's books, and beat my sister, she even brought along that educated youth she's seeing to gang up on me. Wah! The village chief was utterly humiliated. Spotting Jiang He's grim expression in the crowd, they immediately pointed him out. Aren't you an educated youth? Where's Li Tao? How come she started assaulting people since hanging out with you? Jiang He averted his eyes, hastily dismissing it as a misunderstanding. The village chief's wife grew frantic too. What about Li Tao? The barefoot doctor happened to pass by the chief's house with his 2 apprentices, one older, one younger. The 10-year-old apprentice blurted out, "We ran into Sister Tao on our way here. She was heading to the county town and didn't even say hello. Isn't this just fleeing from justice? If you still don't believe me, come to my house." The textbooks Li Tao ripped are still scattered on the floor. I'm preparing for the college entrance exams. You know how precious these materials are. And my brother's face, I sneered coldly. The village chief's face darkened with a hostile glare. My father quickly shielded me behind him. The senior apprentice in his early 20s stepped forward from behind the barefoot doctor. Hold still. Are you hurt somewhere? Only then did I notice the excruciating pain shooting through my right wrist. The apprentice examined it briefly and frowned. This is a dislocated joint. Jiang He's face paled at these words, his gaze turning both evasive and guilt-ridden. My father, who had remained silent until now, confronted the village chief with bloodshot eyes before the crowd. Chief, we're poor peasants who've never offended anyone. Why bar my daughter from the college entrance exams and even break her hand? The village chief found himself completely cornered and had no choice but to make a promise. Li Tao, I'll drag her back by force if I have to, just to make her apologize to your family. The barefoot doctor's senior apprentice performed bone setting on me. 12. I was sweating profusely from the pain. That's it, only one thing matters now. Can I still write? The senior apprentice, a handsome young man, gave a faint smile at these words. You can try. The slightest attempt to grip the brush sent sharp pains that brought tears to my eyes. My heart shattered like icicles crashing from the eaves. I'll never marry Jiang He in this lifetime. The college entrance exam is my golden ticket to change my destiny. How dare Jiang He make me miss this chance? A few days passed. Li Tao still hadn't shown up, and Li Di along with other village kids found out. Li Tao had gotten into trouble and was hiding at her second brother's place in the county town. She idled around all day, even bossing her sister-in-law to cook and sew for her, absolutely over the moon with joy. So-called apologies are just empty pleasantries. In our past life, perhaps because I initially fell short of her in every way and there was no Jiang He to fuel her competitive spirit, we managed to coexist peacefully. In this lifetime, tearing apart that superficial friendship of appearances early on isn't really something to regret. The sky darkened. I stood under the eaves, feeling stifled. Li Tang, a shadowy figure emerged from the darkness beyond the wooden fence. It's Jiang He. Haven't you and Li Tao done enough damage to me? What more do you want? Jiang He was still trying to enter my yard. I didn't realize it was this serious. I lowered my voice. What are you doing creeping around in the dark? One shout of thief and you'll be beaten to death. Believe me. Jiang He froze, his pale face reflected in the snow. Li Tang, I never meant to hurt you. I just need to know one thing. Have you come back too? My gaze caught Jiang He's anxious probing, drawing on decades of past life familiarity. I reflexively pressed further. Did you deliberately provoke Li Tao, making her tear up my textbook in front of me? Jiang He was instantly rendered speechless. That settles it. For all his intellectual credentials, Jiang He still has that typical scholar's spinelessness. Always overthinking and indecisive. He wanted confirmation but didn't dare ask directly. Knowing Li Tao's notoriously difficult personality, he deliberately sicked her on me. I was so overwhelmed juggling everything that I slipped up and gave him an opening. Jiang He, oh Jiang He, always hiding behind women to fight your battles. What a real man you are. Now it makes sense. No matter how willful Li Tao was, she'd never completely lost her mind like this before. Jiang He grew agitated and rushed to explain himself. Li Tang, you're really back. I didn't mean to cause you trouble. I just complimented you in front of Li Tao, and she jumped to conclusions about me liking you. I spat in disgust. Bullshit, you definitely said more than just a few nice words, but that's beside the point now. Since you and Li Tao screwed me over, don't blame me for what's coming. I grabbed whatever was handy and shouted into the night sky, help, there's a burglar in my house. Big dogs from several households started barking wildly, and doors began slamming open up and down the street. Li Di came bolting out. Damn, you're back again. Jiang He cried out in panic. Li Tang, you can't do this to me. Can't do this to him. Then how should I treat him? In my past life, I exhausted myself for that home we shared, giving everything without complaint. Yet in his final moments, he drew a line between us, lamenting his missed chance with another woman. This lifetime, I never wanted to know him. Yet he still sabotaged my college entrance exams. 2 lifetimes of debts to me. Don't think a flimsy I didn't mean to will make it right. Li Di, beat him to a pulp. Li Di grabbed a shoulder pole and chased Jiang He, landing several solid blows, but Jiang He still managed to escape. "You bastard, next time you show up, I'll send you to meet your maker." The incident where Jiang He came to my house to apologize and got chased by Li Di quickly became the talk of the town. 13. I expected Li Tao to be even angrier and was fully prepared for her to come make a scene, but 3 or 4 days passed, there was still no sign of Li Tao. The village chief's wife tossed us some wild produce like we were beggars, as if that counted as an apology. My father silently gathered the items without a word, but when my mother saw it, she immediately wanted to throw everything away. Back when it was just you and me, I could let anything slide, but now even Li Tao dares to come into our home and hit our children. Li Tao, can't you even say something? My father said to my mother through gritted teeth. Do I need to spell out what happened back then? Have you forgotten what the village head's sons did in the county? He's the village head, it's already a big deal that he's willing to swallow his pride. My mom saw I was still studying. I just couldn't shake off this frustration. Even if you pass the exam, what difference would it make? I'd already made up my mind. I'm applying to teacher training colleges, tuition-free with living stipends for students. Mom asked resentfully, if you leave, will you ever come back? And if I get married, can you guarantee I'd return? Mom, if you don't come back, what will happen to Li Di and your younger brothers? What about us? In my past life, after getting married, my entire existence revolved around Jiang He's career. My parents spent their twilight years living with my younger brothers' families, enjoying quite a contented life. This wasn't my mother's real reason for trying to stop me at all. Of course I won't come back. I want to take you, Dad, and all my brothers away from this godforsaken valley, away from this village where we're forced to bow our heads. My mother froze, then turned away with a choked sob. In this day and age, traveling to another region still requires piles of paperwork. Relocating an entire family might as well be a pipe dream. Mom, someone in this family has to take the first step out. Li Tao never came back from the county town. 14. Jiang He visited the village chief's house several times, but never got to see his sweetheart. The last time, he was outright turned away at the chief's doorstep. We'll talk about everything after your college entrance exams. The village chief thought Jiang He wasn't as upright as he appeared. He'd barely known Li Tao for any time at all when he managed to stir up a fight between her and me. After the college entrance exam announcement, many educated youths at the farm planned to take the exam. The village youths were itching to give it a try. Even a tomboyish, not too bright girl like me went to sign up. Jiang He claimed he'd registered, but instead of cracking open a book, he kept chasing after Li Tao. How's this any different from those lecherous louts who used to orbit Li Tao around the village? Li Di returned from gathering intel and briefed me on the enemy situation. Jiang He went back to the educated youth dorm to study. That place was freezing like an ice cellar. He bundled up in scarves, hats, a padded jacket, and even wrapped himself in a quilt. That idiot forgot to stock up on coal. The coal dust couldn't keep the fire going. He nearly froze to death. When other educated youth went to help him, he used diesel instead of kerosene for the lamp. The whole room filled with black smoke. I nearly died laughing. After marrying Jiang He, I ended up handling all the household chores myself. That man wouldn't lift a finger even if an oil bottle tipped over. A proper lord of leisure. Now that I've been reborn, what does this decades out of practice lord of leisure remember about trivialities like fueling lamps or tending charcoal? Li Di doubled over with laughter, and yet here he was, asking around about how Li Tao was doing in the county, even trying to get messages passed to her. My fingers tightened around the book cover. Freezing cold and starving, yet still finding time for lustful thoughts. In that past life, worried about disrupting Jiang He's college entrance exams, I'd voluntarily brought him charcoal, cleaned, and cooked for him. How dare he enjoy my kindness while secretly fantasizing about Li Tao in his heart? What a freeloading, lustful bastard who wants to have his cake and eat it too. Li Di couldn't understand my complex words. Huh, I roared, it's nothing. The college entrance exam is getting closer. 15. Just thinking about wasting my life for that bastard makes my blood boil. This fuels my study motivation endlessly. Literature and politics in the morning, history and geography in the afternoon, then the toughest math at night. My father would wake at night to find me muttering like a witch before the oil lamp. He told my mother, Tang, the child's possessed. Without a word, mother fetched the barefoot doctor's senior apprentice the next day. The apprentice brought a case stuffed with gleaming acupuncture needles. Beads of sweat rolled down my forehead. Does this hurt? The senior apprentice had an oddly charming smile. Give it a try, bring it on. After he gave me the acupuncture treatment, The pain in my wrist gradually subsided. I started daring to practice writing, not fast, but at least I can write now. The senior apprentice started packing his belongings to leave. Suddenly it occurred to me to ask, how should I address the doctor? The senior apprentice turned around, standing tall with an upright posture that set him apart from the typical rough-and-tumble farmers, exuding an air of refined elegance. I suppose being reborn has made my mindset feel younger. Her cheeks flushed without her realizing it. My surname is Pan, as in Panin, the legendary handsome scholar. Dr. Pan chuckled warmly, glancing at the messy pile of books on my Kong. No wonder you took the college entrance exam. You've actually read a few books. Who do you think you're looking down on? TCH, Dr. Pan gave me 3 more acupuncture treatments. 16. I've been practicing handwriting consistently and can now write straight without slanting. When the exam comes, I'll keep my answers concise and to the point, trying to write less. Inspired by me, Li D also started focusing on his studies. My teacher said studying will pay off in the future. The younger kids stopped fooling around too. Those with books read, those without sketch with charcoal on old newspapers. While winter raged outside, the seeds of learning quietly sprouted in these young minds indoors. When my parents returned, they exchanged glances before retreating to the outer room. 3 days left until the college entrance exams. A message from Li Tao reached the farm from the county town. The messenger only spilled the truth after Jiang He kept pestering him. You'd find out sooner or later anyway. Li Tao's in the county town now. Her second brother set her up with someone new. The guy's got a government job, so Peach will become a city girl once they're married. Jiang He felt as if struck by lightning. Then what am I? After all I've done for Taylor. The messenger looked thoroughly embarrassed. Over the years, plenty have courted Taylor, but the village head and his wife chased them all away. Besides, you've only known Taylor for days. Who even knows about you two? Without any marriage registration, how could it count? Jiang He couldn't accept the truth and insisted on going to town to see for himself. The other educated youths all urged him to focus on the college entrance exams first. His own future mattered more than Li Tao. A distraught Jiang He somehow ended up at my doorstep again. 17. This time, it was my father who ran into him at the door. My dad snapped. You again? What do you want now? Jiang He instinctively called out. Dad, ha. My father's beard practically bristled with indignation. Jiang He quickly backtracked. Uncle, it's me. I'd like to apologize to Li Tang in person again. My dad let out a dry chuckle. We've already heard your apology once. No need for a repeat performance. Get lost. But Jiang He wouldn't budge. He kept circling my dad at the courtyard gate like a stubborn puppy, dead set on getting inside to see me. A neighbor walked by and asked my dad, who's this now? Jiang He seized the moment, pushed open the door and lifted the curtain, stepping into our outer room. Dr. Pan happened to be finishing up my acupuncture treatment. Just like that, my wrist remained in Dr. Pan's grasp. What the hell are you doing? Jiang He completely ignored my mom and younger brothers on the other side of the room, acting like a cuckolded husband catching his wife in the act. Li Di kicked Jiang He from behind first. What the fuck do you think you're doing? My dad stormed in, grabbed Jiang He by the collar after he'd been kicked to the ground, and dragged him out. My younger brothers rushed out too, all eager to get their punches in. A neighbor made a half-hearted attempt to intervene. He's the village chief's future son-in-law after all. Don't go overboard. Even my timid father couldn't help getting furious. That worthless son-in-law, that good-for-nothing educated youth. Did you see how he barged into my house in broad daylight? What's his game? Think we're defenseless? I leaned on the windowsill, watching Jiang He scamper away in panic. Dr. Pan asked curiously, what on earth did that guy come here for? What brings you here? That path with Li Tao is a dead end. So you're taking my old route, the second chance wife path. Ugh, what nerve. Exam day arrived. 18. Just to be safe, I went to stay with relatives in the county town a day early. Jiang He and other educated youths had specially arranged transport via heavy-duty trucks. The county high school was packed with students giving it their all, inside and out. As the exam halls opened, crowds streamed in like flowing water to their assigned rooms. The exams lasted just 2 days with midday breaks. I did my best to avoid running into Jiang He. Right after finishing my last exam, I unexpectedly ran into Jiang He across the street while waiting for the bus. His brows were furrowed, and he ignored the male-educated youth trying to talk to him. Just as the truck was about to depart, Jiang He jumped off and shouted to the people on board, I have to find Li Tao. At such a critical juncture in life, he still couldn't let go of Li Tao. Just then, as the bus was about to depart, The conductor shouted into the crowded compartment, "Hold tight and stay seated, we're moving." Hearing the commotion, Jiang-hee glanced toward the bus and sure enough, spotted me pressed against the window. He suddenly realized I'd seen every move he just made, the look of sheer frustration on his face. What a pathetic creature. Wants to keep his idealized lover while maintaining ties with his loyal ex. The bus pulled away, and I couldn't be bothered to look at Jiang-hee anymore. I went back to the village. 19. Li Di was more anxious than anyone, asking how my exam went. Well, I answered everything. The actual score depends on how the teacher grades it. Looking back, we had way too little prep time for this year's college entrance exams. Math was manageable, but other subjects didn't seem to have clear-cut answers. The questions felt easy to me, but I shouldn't get overconfident. Who knows how the grading will turn out. I'm done with my exams, but now my dad's the one stressing out. He's chain-smoking indoors and out. My home's shrouded in mist like a fairyland. Mom dragged Dr. Pan back here again. That's odd, but my wrist has already healed, hasn't it? My mother pursed her lips. You've got no future prospects. Who else but me would bail you out? You've met Xiao Pan. Sure, his family's poor, but his looks are more than enough for someone like you, Mom. If I'd known in my past life you could arrange someone like this for me, why would I have even bothered trying? These days, an unmarried woman has only two paths in life. 20. Work first, then marry first, then work. Either way, staying single isn't an option. I'm not entirely confident about passing the college entrance exam. My mother told me again. The Pan family lives just a few miles from our village. Their family background isn't ideal, but they're good people. Li Tao will return eventually, and the village head will surely cause trouble. If you marry into their family, we might just avoid this mess. I agreed, but I still asked Pan Yunxing, are you really willing? I'm not much to look at, tall and bulky, with a quick temper and a sharp tongue. I listed all the flaws people often point out about me. Pan Yunxing flashed that devastatingly handsome smile again. Being attractive just invites unwanted attention, and with my family background, well. They say even a prized Lingji mushroom growing in the mud is only fit for pigs. Would you really not mind? A sudden wave of sadness washed over me. No, I think you're wonderful just as you are. I like you because you're inherently good. Pan Yunxing's face flushed crimson in an instant. In my past life, I had nothing to my name. I managed to build a thriving business with Jiang-hee, rising from a remote mountain village to a major southern city. This lifetime has granted me a wealth of experience and wisdom. Pan Yunxing's looks and charisma easily outshine Jiang-hee's by a mile. Life with Pan Yunxing would be infinitely more pleasant. Just basking in his good looks beats enduring Jiang-hee's stifling company any day. Getting married these days is quite straightforward. 21. Pan Yunxing and I submitted our marriage application, bought red fabric in town, and exchanged ration coupons for sweets and pastries. That pretty much covered most of it. The approval should come through after New Year's, then I'll move in with you, and we'll build our life together. Pan Yunxing pondered. You truly don't mind my problematic family background. I smiled mysteriously. All I know is, opportunity knocks but once. Amidst the laughter and banter, the street was bustling with onlookers, drawn by some commotion. Being tall finally paid off. My gaze cut through the crowd, finally spotting what was happening in the thick of it. It was Li Tao. She wore a brand new padded jacket, her hair freshly permed. A beggar clung to her thigh desperately. The beggar was sobbing uncontrollably, refusing to let her go. I only recognized Jiang-hee by his voice. He was covered head to toe in grime, absolutely filthy. Peach, you can't leave. What am I supposed to do? Li Tao spat in disgust. Go die wherever the hell you want. Li Tao outright screamed for help. The crowd started throwing punches too. Jiang-hee finally let go after taking a painful hit. Just wailing and sobbing loudly, it sounded absolutely heartbreaking. Seizing the moment as the crowd dispersed, I quickly pulled Pan Yunxing away. Pan Yunxing asked in confusion, isn't that the educated youth who injured your wrist? So the woman who told him to go to hell was Li Tao. Reality is the most absurd theater, judging by Jiang-hee's disheveled appearance. He must have been hiding in the county town searching for Li Tao since the day the college entrance exams ended. To avoid suspicion, I had Pan Yunxing send word back to the farm, urging the educated youths to rescue Jiang-hee immediately. I won't let Jiang-hee freeze to death on the streets that easily. I want him alive. I want him to live in utter humiliation. Surprisingly, Pan Yunxing and I got our marriage approval right before Lunar New Year. 22. The village chief's family knew I had married Pan Yunxing, a barefoot doctor from a family with a problematic background, without official employment. who had to travel far and wide to treat patients. Li Tao also got married. She married into a family of cadres within the system. Her husband not only had an official position but also an allocation for housing. The village chief's wife couldn't resist mocking her mercilessly. Li Tang dared compare herself to my tailor, yet ended up married to that good-for-nothing. Some villagers said Dr. Pan was both skilled and kind-hearted. But the Pans were former landlords, their descendants will rot in poverty. The Li family didn't even think twice before marrying their daughter off in such a hurry. The villagers fell silent. Pan Yunxing heard the news, and it left a bitter taste in his heart. Knowing about the upcoming policy changes, I felt completely at ease. Don't listen to those baseless rumors. Things will be different in a few years, when the time comes. I'll take the whole family south to live that idyllic life by the sea, where spring brings blossoms and warmth. Pan Yunxing chewed on my empty promise. A seaside home with spring blossoms. Exactly, Tang, I believe in you. Our newlywed days were sweeter than any honeymoon I'd ever imagined. The bride returns to her parents' home 3 days after the wedding. 23. Li Tao and her husband also traveled back to her family home on the second day of Lunar New Year in their large truck. The truck bed was loaded with several baskets of gifts from the city. Every passing villager received handfuls of candies or pastries. The village chief even set off firecrackers specially. Half the village could feel the festive cheer. Things were much quieter on our side. Pan Yunxing and I only brought back a few small packets of sweets and pastries. The whole family gathered around the Kong, eating and drinking. When the firecrackers started, the younger kids were practically bouncing with excitement. Li Di stopped them with just a look. But then, some kids from the village deliberately came over to provoke mine. Why aren't you guys coming out to play? The village chief's handing out wedding candies. They're super sweet. My dad was in charge of shooing the kids away. Mom tore open several candy packets and distributed them to all my younger brothers. Pan Yunxing's ears stayed bright red the entire time. On the way back, Pan Yunxing said, I'm sorry, with so many villagers living in worse conditions than the village chief's family, should every son-in-law be apologizing? Pan Yunxing remained silent. I held out both my hands and said, with the 4 hands between us, we'll surely build a home and move out of this godforsaken gully. The wind howled and the snow swirled. On our way out of the village, we actually ran into Li Tao and her husband. Li Tao was wearing another beautiful new dress. Her husband standing beside her looked gaunt and frail. His features could hardly be called handsome. As they were about to board the truck, Li Tao spotted me with her sharp eyes. I wasn't wearing anything new, let alone having an imposing truck as my ride. The only genuinely handsome face around belonged to her husband, Pan Yunxing. Li Tao, who had initially held her chin high, immediately looked displeased upon seeing Pan Yunxing. She was just so stubborn. If she outshone me in every way but one, even if it was just slightly, she'd instantly feel put out. Noticing her pause, her husband asked, someone you know again? Li Tao deliberately raised her voice. No, I don't just know any Tom, Dick or Harry. Ah, a strange cry came from nowhere. We all turned toward the sound in unison. It's Jiang He. He was unshaven with messy hair covering his eyes, looking completely disheveled. Li Tao's face turned pale with fright as she scrambled into the car, urging, let's go, let's go. We keep running into these cursed people. Her husband frowned, giving her a strange look. The truck honked once and drove off, leaving Jiang He behind. Jiang He wasn't foolish enough to chase after Li Tao's truck. He just stood by the roadside, dejected, as if the world was vast but he couldn't find his way. What a pathetic loser. TCH. I dragged Pan Yunxing away with me. Pan Yunxing kept looking back over his shoulder. Weren't that educated youth and Li Tao supposed to get married? What's gone wrong between them now? His beloved, the one who got away, is back in town, and his ex-wife, the one he treated like dirt, has moved on too. What else could Jiang He do but watch? Who knows? Anyway, he's all alone now. After the new year, word has it that the preliminary college entrance exam selection list was posted on a big red. A traditional red announcement board, outside the County Education Bureau. 24, Pan Yunxing said, how about we go check it out? I looked out the window at the heavy snowfall. The county town was over 20 kilometers away. Who could stand the cold if we walked all that way? Even if I'm on the preliminary list, I wouldn't dare say I passed until the final confirmation. Let's just wait a bit longer. Li Di ran from my maiden home to our newlywed house. Sis, you passed the preliminary selection. The county wants you to go for a physical examination right away. Li Di had also heard from others that several educated youths had teamed up to go to the county to check the results, and they really did see my name. Pan Yunxing and I were absolutely overjoyed. Several farms organized for their educated youth to go for medical checkups at the hospital by truck, and they gave us a ride along the way. I was so happy I completely forgot about the awkwardness of potentially running into Jiang-hee. The checkup process itself went as smoothly as silk. I'm built like a tank and healthy as a horse. The medical report got stamped with a big fat approved. While waiting in line at the county hospital, I overheard about a woman in gynecology who'd been beaten by her newlywed husband. That shameless woman, married barely over 2 weeks, yet 2 months pregnant. Sigh. Whose family is she from? Shoo. It's from the family. That woman from the countryside had no shame, didn't even realize she was pregnant. When the doctor found out, she clung to her husband's arm like a spoiled child, whining and throwing tantrums. Her man laid hands on her right away. A few slaps shut her up. Said it was done by one of those educated youths from the farm. My ears caught a few key phrases. I thought, it can't be that coincidental, can it? On the way back, I didn't mention it to Pan Yunxing. But the very next day, Li Di came running to me again to report on the enemy situation. 25. Sis, Li Tao was kicked out by her in-laws, and her face is all swollen from being beaten. Her man trashed the village chief's house and called her a slut. Li Tao's second brother took some men to the farm, but Jiang-hee got wind of it and fled. A storm raged within me. That bastard Jiang-hee. He couldn't wait to make things official after being reborn. Li Tao is incredibly brave. After everything that's happened, she still dares to marry into the county town to climb the social ladder. If it weren't for the lack of relevant educational knowledge in this era, Li Tao, in her confusion, went for a checkup at the hospital, and it's quite possible she could have gotten away with it. Snapping back to reality, I quickly covered Li Di's mouth and whispered to him, "Don't say a word, go home, and tell mom and dad to stay in too." Li Di was puzzled. Li Tao is so petty. If I don't suck up to her, I'll really offend her. If she finds out I might get into university while she's fallen so low, do you think she won't cause trouble again? Why? Li Di snorted. She still has the nerve to make a scene. She said she only got together with Jiang-hee because he knew the county magistrate. Isn't she out of her mind? How could the county magistrate possibly know Jiang-hee? They do know each other. It was just a group photo taken when Jiang-hee got into university and the county leadership came to visit him. If you're talking about that kind of acquaintance, I've got plenty. Li Di then casually added, "Oh, by the way, Jiang-hee failed the exam." It only then dawned on me that I hadn't seen Jiang-hee at the physical exam that day. Oh, well, then I guess I'm definitely not going to get to know him in this lifetime. Absurd. Ridiculous. Early March brought yet another freak snowstorm. 26. My college acceptance letter never came. I might as well go to the farm near Pan's house to ask around for information. Those educated youths were also very kind-hearted. When they heard I'd passed the preliminary selection by self-study, some even looked surprised and a little regretful. Out of 17 or 18 of them who took the exam, only 2 passed the preliminary selection. Not everyone possesses the keen insight to seize opportunities before they even fully materialize. I wasn't reborn. Nor did I have the confidence to even attempt the exam. Finally, I teamed up with the 2 educated youths who passed the preliminary selection, and we trekked through mountains and rivers to the commune to collect our respective admission letters. The staff were incredibly helpful too. Upon hearing my name, they even chuckled and said, "You're Li Tang, you're quite popular. People from your village have been asking about your admission letter several times." My heart skipped a beat. I tucked the admission letter into my inner clothing. After that, I didn't dare go home. I secretly had someone bring Pan Yunxing to the farm. It was so cold, yet when Pan Yunxing arrived, sweat was beading on his forehead. After you left, several thugs came to the house looking for trouble. I went to my father-in-law's place, and Li Di also mentioned that Li Tao had already caused a scene at your house. I bit my lip hard. What a bunch of bastards. Pan Yunxing looked at my admission letter with a radiant smile. "Tang, you finally made it out. I was the first female college student from our village." 27. My parents' home was packed with well-wishers, only to find out I'd already been married off. When they finally tracked down the Pan household, my in-laws claimed I'd left for university at dawn. But nothing could dampen everyone's excitement. My college admission brought honor to both our families. Li Tao still wanted to make a scene, yet after her miscarriage, she came through the snow to my house, screaming and causing a hysterical scene. Now she's completely broken, bedridden and unable to move. Li Tao was introduced to her current husband by her second brother. Because of Li Tao's situation, her brother ended up making countless enemies. The village chief said, "Just let her die." The chief's wife refused and tearfully called for the barefoot doctor. Li Tao knew that the barefoot doctor's top apprentice was my husband. She started spouting nonsense again. fabricating all her messed up stories as if they were mine, and then giggled. The barefoot doctor was a kind and benevolent person. My top apprentice was the one who treated Li Tang's dislocated arm. If you hadn't made such a fuss back then, those two kids would never have ended up together. My dear girl, you're still so young. Who exactly are you trying to spite? Li Tao covered her face with the quilt and sobbed uncontrollably. After that, Li Tao lost the affection her parents once showed her and was frequently beaten and verbally abused. The gossip was downright vicious. I'd been feeling completely drained lately. Jiang He was renowned in the brigade as a meticulous accountant with crystal clear ledgers, 28, in his past life. His inflexibility had quietly alienated many people. This time around, he failed the college entrance exam. And combined with his past history with Li Tao, many speculated the child she lost was his. The vicious gossip kept pouring into his ears like truckloads of dirt. What really got under his skin was that I actually got into the provincial normal university. He started haunting my parents' neighborhood like a restless ghost. He regrets it now. Li Di and his buddies pelted them with stones. You bastard. You're the one who dislocated my sister's arm, almost cost our family a college graduate. He's covering for Li Tao's bullying because they're screwing around behind everyone's backs, adulterers, shameless. The village kids cursed him relentlessly. The village chief's family reputation grew increasingly foul. Eventually, Jiang He accidentally took a fall on his way back from our village to the farm, breaking his leg. When they found him, he was barely clinging to life. Even the barefoot doctor couldn't cure it. Only then was he leisurely transported to the county hospital. The county hospital took one look and asked, why did it take so long to bring him in? He's going to be permanently disabled. And as luck would have it, Jiang He was found to have embezzled a lot of food coupons while working as an accountant, all of which he spent on Li Tao. From the first time I saw Jiang He buying so many things for Li Tao, I knew he must have been dipping into public funds. 29. There was no other explanation. In his previous life, as an educated youth, Jiang He received a limited living allowance, and his accounting work for the commune was purely voluntary. Where on earth would he get extra ration coupons to trade for anything in this lifetime? In the end, out of pity for his disability, they didn't send him to prison. As for returning to the city or taking the college entrance exams in the future, Jiang He might as well forget about those possibilities. Jiang He deserved to pay for his mistakes by spending the rest of his life stuck in this backwater village where he'd been sent down. My anonymous tip about him wasn't in vain after all. 3 years later, 30, Pan Yunxing also got admitted to the provincial medical university. My wife and I were finally reunited in the provincial capital. That summer vacation, we went back to our hometown together again. The only reason I dared to return this time was because the village chief's family had fallen on hard times. My mother was already waiting for us at the village entrance early in the morning. It's been 3 years, I finally get to see you again, son. Passing by the former village chief's house, I was shocked to see it had collapsed. My mom, with a troubled look, quickly pulled us away. Once we got home and settled onto the warm Kong, my dad finally explained what had happened. After you left for college, the city started overturning old wrongful cases. Every one of the village chief's sons got exposed. The worst was the second son. He'd seized someone else's house in town, even forced a local girl into marriage. All that came to light. The chief had a stroke when he heard Li Tao, who was always a bit unhinged, set the house on fire playing with matches at midnight, though rescued from the flames. The old couple didn't last half a year in the ramshackle shelter they'd been reduced to living in. Li Di interjected at this point. What's so tragic about it? How did the village chief bully us back then? I haven't forgotten. Second brother also said, even in death, they still brought trouble to our village. A few years ago, Uncle Lu, our neighbor, went to the county. As soon as people heard he was from our village, they said our village was famous for producing both university students and loose women. Uncle Lu almost got into a fight with that person. I felt surprisingly calm after hearing that. My past life probably played out much the same way. Li Tao did marry well, but after marriage, her brother's troubles ended up affecting her too. Her husband quarreled with her and demanded a divorce. Spoiled by her habitual temper, she impulsively drank pesticide in a moment of despair. She was only in her 20s when she passed away. I feel deep sympathy for her due to her tragically premature death. Despite all the childhood frictions, I choose only to remember her radiant charm. After rebirth, I was determined to rewrite the tragedy of her marriage. Thus began her first encounter with Jiang He. If this proves to be unrequited love, there's nothing more I can do. If they were both willing, Jiang He would get what he wanted. And Li Tao's outcome would surely be better than her previous life, where she committed suicide after an argument. from now on, we'll go our separate ways. And that's how it should be. Who would have thought that this time around, the two of them would spark such a connection? Jiang-hee is devious and constantly makes terrible decisions. Li Tao acts willfully, always reaching for what's beyond her grasp. I'm almost impressed by how they're digging their own grave. After dinner, my husband and I took a stroll through the village. 31, Lidi has now grown taller than me. He mysteriously led us to a rundown house. Sis, this is where Jiang-hee and Li Tao live. Jiang-hee and Li Tao. They actually managed to rekindle their romance. The door creaked open with a groan. We quickly hid ourselves. Disheveled and grimy, Jiang-hee emerged leaning on a cane. The house was so dilapidated it didn't even have a courtyard wall. Jiang-hee set his crutch aside and laboriously pulled the bellows, preparing to start a fire for cooking. Before long, a disheveled woman, giggling wildly, ran out. On closer inspection, he noticed a frayed, broken rope tied around her waist. Jiang-hee froze for a moment, then yelled and chased after her. But how could a disabled person on crutches possibly catch up to an energetic madman? I couldn't believe it. Is that Li Tao? Li Di nodded. Yeah. After the village chief and his wife died, Li Tao's relatives looked after her for a while, more as a formality than anything else. But her madness came and went in unpredictable waves. Later, all her brothers were convicted. No one cared for her anymore. After some unknown dealings with Li Tao's relatives, Jiang-hee took her to settle in that dilapidated house. Jiang-hee's lifelong dream spanning 2 generations has finally come true. This time when I returned, 32, my in-law's family was finally cleared of the landlord label. With visible relief, my mother-in-law slipped the family heirloom jade bracelet onto my wrist. I don't quite dare to wear it. My mother-in-law said, ever since you went to college. So many people claimed you'd never come back and would break up with Yunxing. But you proved them wrong. You even wrote letters encouraging him to pursue higher education too. Having you as our daughter-in-law is nothing short of a divine blessing. Stroking the miraculously preserved bracelet, I said solemnly to my mother-in-law, Mom, our best days are surely yet to come. Those words really warmed my mother-in-law's heart. The holidays are over, despite owing me his life. Jiang-hee tricked me into slaving away for him my entire life. As the car was about to leave the village, passing a high hill, Pan Yunxing tugged at me to look outside. There was a man leaning on a crutch, staring blankly in the direction we were leaving. I saw him. I wonder if he saw me. Anyway, he seemed to be shouting something loudly. I didn't catch that. We're not coming back after this. Huh. We'll work on settling down in the provincial capital soon. Then move both your family and mine out there. Got it. Then, we'll set our course toward the dream of ocean views and spring blossoms. Tang, I believe in you. The end. Story 2. Before his death, my husband said he would leave all his inheritance to his first love, Sui Sui. She's different from you. You're just a nanny, but she's a dancer. She's lived elegantly her whole life, and only with money can she live out her remaining years comfortably. Besides, back then, if it weren't for you staging that car accident, we wouldn't have separated. You took advantage of my gratitude and wasted my entire life. If I could do it all over again, I'd rather be disabled than have any connection with you. He was full of grievances, yet never mentioned how I missed 2 college entrance exams to save him. Later, to help him recover, I gave up my aerospace dream and switched to nursing. I signed the asset waiver agreement and whispered softly, okay. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day of the college entrance exam, the moment he raced his car to win back his first love. I pretended to know nothing about it. In this lifetime, I don't want to have any involvement with him either. 1. Just as the college entrance exam ended, my dad grabbed me and quickly rushed back to the car. He started the car while my mom took charge of answering. Did you know about Wenshua's early romance? Today was the college entrance exam. But the girl broke up with him, Wenshua. I didn't need to hear the rest to know exactly what happened. Just like in my past life, Wenshua got into a car accident chasing after his girlfriend and lost his legs. The only difference was this time I watched helplessly as Wenshua went to his death, then went on to complete the afternoon exam. When we arrived at the hospital, 2 exhausted doctors had just emerged from the operating room. The car accident was too severe, and the rescue was delayed. We've saved his life, but he'll most likely never walk again. If post-op recovery goes poorly, amputation might be necessary. As these words were spoken, Auntie Sue, Wenshua's mother, burst into tears. Uncle Wen steadied her, his own face filled with grief. My parents also stood there dumbfounded. It's a shame Wenshua studied so hard for so many years, only for this to happen at such a critical moment. My dad shot a look to silence my mom. After Wenshua was pushed out, All four parents immediately surrounded him, only I stood frozen, staring blankly at my own hands, slender and delicate, without calluses or the swollen joints from prolonged exposure to cold water. I had truly been reborn, and the 2 exams I took this afternoon were also real. In their past life, when Shua's first love Su Firan broke up with him on the day of the college entrance exam, in an attempt to win her back. When Shua didn't hesitate to drive Uncle Wen's car to chase after her, I happened to see this and, worried about Wen Shua's safety, followed behind, but ended up witnessing that horrific car accident with my own eyes. To get him to the hospital for treatment as soon as possible, I missed 2 afternoon exams. Despite usually scoring nearly 700 points, I only got a little over 400 in the college entrance exam. I had planned to retake the exam. But when Shua suddenly knelt down and confessed his feelings, he said, "The doctor told me that if you hadn't risked pulling me out of the car, both my legs would likely have been amputated. You gave up 2 exams for me and missed the aerospace program. I'm willing to take responsibility for you for the rest of my life. If you don't mind me." Years of unrequited love suddenly came to fruition at this moment. And for a while I didn't even know how to react. What about Su Firan then? When Shua's eyes were filled with nothing but hatred. If it weren't for her, how could I have ended up like this? I can't hate her enough. After a day of hesitation, coupled with changes in the college entrance exam policies and when Shua repeatedly claiming he couldn't live without me, I finally agreed, missing out on my favorite major. I enrolled in nursing to help Wen Shua stand up again. For the next few decades, I dedicated myself to assisting Wen Shua with his rehabilitation training. He said he disliked having outsiders at home, so tasks like laundry, cooking, massages, and rehabilitation were solely handled by me. I took care of him meticulously until he could stand on his own feet again. When he refused to accept failure and wanted to start a business, I was the one running around helping him. But when his career took off, on the day of his celebration banquet, I overheard him asking his assistant, "Did you manage to invite that dancer Su Firan to be my companion for today?" The assistant nodded but hesitated, saying, "President Wen, what about your wife?" Wen Shua looked at his upright reflection in the mirror and let out a cold laugh. "My wife, she's just a housekeeper." I stood behind the door, humiliated, clutching the dress I was wearing. Perhaps heaven took pity, as Wen Shua was once again admitted to the ICU due to complications. But before his death, he left all his inheritance to Su Firan. He even transferred the mere few $100,000 in my name to Su Firan. Sway, she's different from you. You're just a nanny, but she's a dancer. She's lived elegantly her whole life, and money is what she needs to live comfortably for the rest of her days. And back then, if it weren't for you staging that car accident, we wouldn't have separated. You exploited my gratitude and ruined my entire life. If I could do it over, I'd rather be disabled than have any connection with you. After toiling half my life, I became a penniless man only fit for menial labor. In my past life, I've already paid the price for being love-struck, too. This time, I silently watched Uncle Wen and Aunt Su shed tears. Wen and I have only one son in this lifetime, Wen Shua. We've poured all our efforts into him. He's clearly an outstanding student with both moral integrity and academic excellence. So how could he start dating so young? I've already made inquiries. That girl is an art student with terrible grades. The college entrance exam means nothing to her. But she shouldn't be ruining Wen Shua at this critical moment. Sobs. My mother sighed beside me. This girl too. After Wen Shua went through such a big ordeal for her, she doesn't even come to visit. Aunt Su's eyes filled with resentment as she abruptly stood up. We're not an unreasonable family. But that girl ruined my son. She should at least come to apologize. Aunt Su got up to go find Su Firan. But before she could take 2 steps, Wen Shua's shouts came from the hospital room. Firan. I followed at the very end and walked in. Wen Shua had gauze wrapped around his head, both legs immobilized, struggling desperately to crawl but unable to get up no matter how hard he tried, because I didn't follow. It said that Wen Shua remained unconscious in the car for over an hour before a teacher found him and called 120. The treatment came too late, and the injuries were more severe. The doctor said the chance of amputation is very high. Aunt Su ran over, holding back her tears. Don't move, son. The doctor said you shouldn't move around. The wound hasn't healed yet. Wen Shua stared at his leg in slight surprise, then said with forced nonchalance, It's nothing, just a broken bone, not a big deal. See, I can still move it. Wen Shua tried to move his leg, but there was no response. His expression gradually froze, and with each attempt, his face revealed growing urgency. Why can't I move my legs? The anesthesia must still be wearing off, right? Uncle Wen and Aunt Su had tears in their eyes, but didn't know how to begin speaking. Speak, say something. Wen Shuo pressed the nurse call button himself, and when the nurse entered, he immediately began questioning her. What's wrong with my leg? Tell me, what's really wrong with my leg? The nurse was startled, and just as she was about to speak, Wen Shuo suddenly pounded his leg violently again. Why can't I move at all? Wen Shuo was so agitated that 2 or 3 people couldn't hold him down, but seeing him like this, I inexplicably felt a hint of satisfaction. I walked up to Wen Shuo and said word by word, keep pounding your legs if you want. Right now they're just paralyzed, but if you keep it up, you might end up needing amputation. Wen Shuo froze as if struck by the word paralyzed. Paralyzed. Aunt Sue finally couldn't hold back and broke down in tears. Uncle Wen also said, Dad already knows the whole story of this matter. Now that you've ended up like this, that Su Firen. Before he could finish speaking, Wen Shuo suddenly said, it has nothing to do with Firen. I was in a hurry and drove without permission. I lowered my eyes and smiled. Even if your favoritism paralyzed me, should I still defend you in front of everyone? This car accident clearly had nothing to do with me. Yet in my past life, Wen Shuo could recklessly pin the blame on me. The difference between love and its absence is indeed obvious. In my past life, he said he'd rather be disabled than have any connection with me. He remained disabled for life. While I took the college entrance exams to pursue my dreams, everyone got what they wished for. 3. This time I didn't offer to stay overnight with Wen Shuo again. After a while, I went home. But the next day, Aunt Sue fell ill due to extreme stress and anger. After all, Wen Shuo was underage and caught driving without a license by the media, sparking a wave of online abuse directed at him. Uncle Wen couldn't handle the pressure alone, so my mom had no choice but to send me over right after I finished my college entrance exams. When Wen Shuo saw it was me who came, his initial excitement quickly faded. I ignored him, just quietly sat nearby playing with my phone, thinking as long as he was unharmed that was enough. But just when the nurse came to change the dressing, Wen Shuo was being very uncooperative. Bed 18, time for a dressing change. Wen Shuo turned his head with reddened eyes. No need. The nurse was helpless but not the least bit surprised, looking as if this was a common occurrence. If you don't change the dressing, your leg will only get worse. The nurse proceeded to unwrap the bandages on Wen Shuo's leg without waiting for consent. No need to change it. Wen Shuo violently knocked the iodine solution off the nurse's tray, sending it crashing loudly to the floor. I frowned and stood up. In his previous life, Wen Shuo couldn't accept his legs being like this either, but he wasn't as much of a jerk about it as he is now. Only after carefully recalling did I notice the difference. In the previous life after Wen Shuo's accident, I went to Su Firen and pleaded with her extensively. She came to visit him the very next day, but this time, news of Wen Shuo's car accident spread throughout the school, yet Su Firen showed no reaction at all. Wen Shuo was throwing a tantrum. The nurse was extremely aggrieved, yet she had no choice but to complete her task. But before she could touch him, Wen Shuo actually reached out and gave the nurse a shove on the shoulder. I already told you. Are you deaf or just stupid? Is everyone in your profession this worthless? Can't you even understand what a patient is, unable to bear it any longer? I raised my hand and slapped Wen Shuo across the face. If you don't want treatment, just check out. Why are you throwing a tantrum here? The nurse wiped her tears, took a deep breath, then went out to fetch the medicine again. Bed number 18, I grabbed the medicine and threw it onto Wen Shuo's body. If you want to die, hurry up and go. If not, change it yourself. The nurse gave me a grateful look before leaving with visible relief. My heart silently aches for this young lady at the private hospital, having encountered such a beast like Wen Shuo. Wen Shuo panted heavily like a raging lion, glaring at me furiously. Xiao Sui Sui, how dare you hit me? Seeing the swelling on his face, I finally felt a bit of satisfaction. Before you go looking for trouble, think about your parents first. Your mother fell ill. Your father's hair turned white overnight. What reason do you have to act like this? Just because Su Firen didn't come to see you, then why don't you go bother her instead? Wen Shuo fell silent after being called out. After a long while, he finally spoke with a nasal tone. Firen must have gone to training camp again and didn't know about this. That's why she didn't come. I mercilessly shattered his illusions. The college entrance exam is over. She even attended a class reunion yesterday. Wen Shuo pressed his lips tightly and turned his head away again, clearly unwilling to admit it. By the time I returned from the bathroom, he had secretly changed his medication. In my past life, I always pitied Wen Shuo for being sick and took care of everything for him personally. Later, I ended up spoiling him into a helpless adult who wouldn't even take his daily medicine unless I portioned it out for him. Now that no one's taking care of him, he still managed to change his medication on his own, didn't he? After returning home, I took a glance at Sue Fearon's social media feed. She's had quite an eventful few days. After much deliberation, I finally opened the chat window with Sue Fearon. I wanted to see how Sue Fearon would treat Wen Shui in this lifetime without my earnest persuasion. The next day, Sue Fearon and I arrived at the hospital one after another. When I arrived, Wen Shui's face was lifeless, but when Sue Fearon came, he finally seemed like a living person. His eyes sparkled. "Fearon, you've finally come. How did you know I was hospitalized? You've gone through so much trouble in this heat." Xiao Sui. Quickly go buy Fearon a cup of milk tea. Even though I no longer had any feelings for Wen Shui in this lifetime, I still couldn't help but laugh in frustration. In my past life, I gave up repeating the college entrance exam to study nursing, helping him recover from paralysis and stand again. Not only did he fail to appreciate my efforts, but he also treated me like a maid, claiming I orchestrated the accident to be with him. Truly, the beloved wins by merely existing, without lifting a finger. I stood motionless as Sue Fearon crossed her arms and coldly declined. She kept her distance from Wen Shui. "I didn't come here to drink milk tea, Wen Shui. What exactly do you mean? You had an accident because of your poor driving skills, and now you want to drag me into it and make me take responsibility for you. Are you kidding me? Your car accident happened after I broke up with you. We're already done, understand?" It was the first time I saw that expression on Wen Shui's face, stunned. Awkward, yet forcing a smile. He looked like he'd had a hard life. He stammered, "Fearon, no, I didn't mean to make you take responsibility. Sue Fearon coldly berated him in return. "Did you think I wouldn't know you deliberately spread rumors about your car accident at school? You're just trying to emotionally blackmail me. The more you act like this, the more disgusted I feel. You're the one who insisted on clinging to me. Do you expect me to waste my whole life on you? Don't contact me again. I'm telling you for the last time, we're already broken up." Sue Fearon walked away with her head held high, while Wen Shui actually shed 2 tears. In his previous life, he didn't cry before death. This time, he didn't cry upon learning of his paralysis, but Sue Fearon's few words made him break down in tears. I curled my lips in a vengeful smirk. The college entrance exam application is coming up soon. I need to go back and choose my schools. Uncle Wen needs to take care of Aunt Sue, so please hire a temporary caregiver for now. I said a lot, but Wen Shui didn't listen to any of it. But it doesn't matter, I just need to carry out my parents' orders. I just heard that Wen Shui developed a high fever that same night and had to receive emergency treatment again. I stopped going to the hospital and instead began studying aerospace knowledge. In my past life, Wen Shui called me a nanny because of my major. This time, I will fulfill my own dream. I signed up for a summer training camp related to aerospace studies and am preparing to depart in 3 days. But I never expected that the next day, while my mom was helping me pack my things, Aunt Sue's call suddenly came through. She was crying so hard on the other end she could barely catch her breath, her words interspersed with the wailing sound of sirens. "Quick, come to the hospital. The girl Wen Shui likes got a boyfriend. And he's so heartbroken he's trying to kill himself. Son, come down here right now." The parents exchanged glances, and Dad accidentally cut his hand while chopping vegetables. "Suicide, let's go, hurry over there." On the way, the parents were extremely anxious. Such a good child ruined like this. Wen Shui used to be so wonderful. Xiao Sui, you must never fall in love too early. No, you must never be love-struck. Understand? My mom shot a glare at my dad. How could my daughter? I sat in the back without speaking, but my heart was bitter. Actually, I don't regret saving someone in my past life, but I suffered greatly from being love-struck. In my past life, my mistakes alone caused my parents to toil for half their lives. Mom and Dad, I swear I won't let that happen again. No matter who my partner is, it won't happen. More than sacrifice. In this life I want to stay true to myself. 6. The area near the hospital was completely jammed. So my mother had to take me out of the car and we ran there. Both 110 and 119 arrived, and thick padding was laid out below the hospital. The ward was on the 15th floor, where a person in a hospital gown was hanging by the window. It was Wen Shui. Actually, I didn't feel much emotion inside, but I still recorded the video and sent it to Sue Fearon. Whether Wen Shui truly wants to die or is just emotionally manipulating, that's between the two of them. It has nothing to do with me. I just don't want to see Wen Shui die so soon. After all, compared to death, living is the harder ordeal. When we rushed to the ward, Wen Shui was sitting entirely on the windowsill. With the window wide open, he could fall straight down with just a slight lean backward. My mother spoke her mind into my ear. "This child's legs aren't. How did he even get up there?" My dad nudged my mom's arm. what kind of time is this to be saying such things? Wen Shuai, listen to Uncle Qiao and come down quickly. You're still young, there's no hurdle you can't overcome. Wen Shuai's face was full of brokenness as he pointed at his own leg. Like this, what's the point of me living anymore? I sent another video to Su Firan, and said, if you don't want to carry a human life on your conscience for the rest of your days, come here quickly. Aunt Su anxiously slapped her thigh. Son, come down, your life is just beginning. What does it matter if you lose your legs? Our family is well off. Your parents can support you. Come down quickly. Wen Shuai broke down and demanded, How am I supposed to live? I'll never be able to stand up again in this lifetime. Xiao Suisui can still go to the university she loves. Everyone else still has endless possibilities. Only I have to spend my whole life in a wheelchair. Mom, Dad, I really don't want to live anymore. Let me go. You're still young. You can have another child. Just make sure they don't end up like me. Wen Shuai spoke as he leaned backward, but amidst everyone's exclamations, Su Firan arrived belatedly. Wen Shuai, how dare you? Wen Shuai froze. Su Firan supported herself on her knees, gasping for breath in great heaves. Don't jump. Please don't jump. I know what you want. I promise. I'm willing to stay with you. A flicker of joy flashed in Wen Shuai's eyes, but it was soon replaced by desolation. He shook his head. I know you've already. I don't want to hold you back. Su Firan tentatively took step after step forward. It was all because I didn't have the courage to face you before, yet couldn't forget you, so I found someone else. Wen Shuai, I still want to be with you. The moment Wen Shuai was rescued, Aunt Su collapsed to the ground, wailing uncontrollably. My mother patted her shoulder sympathetically. There, it's all right now. Is that so? But the anger and resentment in Su Firan's eyes clearly didn't look like nothing's wrong. 7. I went home to prepare for summer camp. While my parents still kept going to the hospital from time to time, they said with Su Firan around, Wen Shuai finally started taking his treatment seriously. I've watched Wen Shuai grow up since childhood, and I've never seen him so obedient before. Sigh, it would be best if those two could stay like this forever, but that girl doesn't seem like the type who can hold on. I said while packing food into my bag, why do you care so much, Mom? You should be checking on me instead. I'm leaving tomorrow. Only then did my mom start helping me pack my things, but after a while, she hesitated and said, Suisui, why does Mom feel like you and Wen Shuai have grown much more distant recently? Before, weren't you? I paused and said earnestly, Mom, please stop talking about childhood sweethearts anymore. Since Wen Shuai and Su Firan are already together, I should keep my distance even if our relationship was once very close. I made my stance clear, and my mom didn't ask any further questions. That very evening, Aunt Su and Uncle Wen came to our house to complain. Seeing my suitcase and bag, Aunt Su was momentarily stunned. Suisui, are you going somewhere? I nodded. I plan to apply for the aerospace program, so I'm cramming some knowledge during summer break first. Aunt Su nodded, tears welling up in her eyes before she could speak. When the crowd thinned, she suddenly grabbed my hand and said, Suisui, go study the major you love. It's Wen Shuai who wronged you. You and Wen Shuai grew up together since childhood. Even Auntie can't bear to see you being held back by him. I froze for a moment, at a loss for how to respond. In my past life after marriage, Auntie Su and Uncle Wen were actually always very good to me. Having a son like Wen Shuai who's been love-struck for 2 lifetimes, they've really had it rough. I couldn't bear to hurt Aunt Su, so I tactfully said, Wen Shuai and Su Firan are deeply in love, and they will eventually have a happy ending, with someone taking good care of him. Perhaps Wen Shuai will gradually recover. Auntie, please set your mind at ease. After all, in my past life, it was through my care that Wen Shuai managed to stand up again. But Aunt Su shook her head. Wen Shuai won't let us get close, and Su Firan is just a child who doesn't know how to care for others. Within just a few days, Wen Shuai developed bedsores. This was expected. In my past life, I would wipe Wen Shuai's body twice a day and massage his muscles once, only I knew the exhaustion involved. It's perfectly normal that Su Firan couldn't manage it. The next day I went straight to summer camp. Everything related to space fascinates me. I was voraciously absorbing all kinds of knowledge. This time I must make up for last time's regret no matter what. Wen Shuai had been completely pushed out of my mind. It wasn't until 10 days later, when I was preparing to go home to check my grades, that I found out Su Firan had actually gotten engaged to Wen Shuai. Engagement is a happy occasion. Why do you all look so gloomy? My parents shook their heads one after another. Do you think an engagement is something decided so casually? My mother held up 3 fingers. It was your Uncle Wen who promised a dowry of 3 million, plus all of Su Firan's university expenses in exchange. I raised an eyebrow, but quickly came to terms with it. It's simply a case of the biter bit. 8. That evening, our family of 3 sat neatly in front of the computer, eagerly waiting to check the results at the exact moment they were released. The moment I saw the total score of 703, tears of excitement streamed down my face. Mom, I can study aerospace engineering. I can do it. I could have done it all along. My parents couldn't understand what I was saying, just nodding frantically along. In my past life, when I discovered Wenshua treated me like a maid while paying extravagantly for Su Firan to be his companion, I found an opportunity to bring this up with him. But Wenshua just looked me up and down, then dragged me in front of a mirror. Look at yourself, you're dry, split ends and hands swollen like radishes. What else could you be but a nanny? Besides, you studied nursing. Isn't that just being a glorified maid? If not a nanny, would you even consider wiping my waist in a hospital? I shouted emotionally, didn't I study nursing to help you recover? Without me, would you have gotten better? Wenshua, how can you be so heartless? My body trembled with rage. If it weren't for saving you back then, the past 10 years were what Wenshua least wanted to mention. He slammed the table angrily and demanded, back then, back then, back then. How many more times must you bring it up? Even if you had taken the exam back then, could you have scored high? Could you have gotten into the aerospace program? Xiao Sui Sui, I see you're quite the dreamer. That night, my heart was utterly shattered by Wenshua, but my 703-point score proved I could really do it. I always could. Early the next morning, I dragged my parents out to celebrate. But right then, they ran into Su Firan pushing Wenshua out in his wheelchair. Even while turning to lock the door, Wenshua couldn't tear his gaze away from Su Firan. With her around, Wenshua's mood noticeably improved. Uncle, Aunt, Sui Sui, where are you all going? The parents were afraid that celebrating openly would hurt Wenshua's feelings, so they just made up a random excuse, going to her grandmother's place for dinner. What about you? Wenshua's emotions were written all over his face. Firan is taking me to the hospital for a follow-up check. As soon as the words fell, Su Firan took the initiative to ask me, the college entrance exam results are out. How many points did Sui Sui score? In my peripheral vision, Wenshua also looked at me. With a faint smile on my lips, I calmly said, 703 points. In my peripheral vision, a trace of desolation actually flashed across Wenshua's face. Su Firan's face showed no extra expression as she said, I can also go to the school I like to study dance now. Classes start on September 5th. At this, Wenshua completely lost his smile. Given his current situation, forget about going to university, he couldn't even be left alone without someone by his side. But Su Firan was different. Could someone who fits in seamlessly really stay by Wenshua's side for a lifetime? 9. Before school started, my parents held a college celebration banquet for me, and Uncle Wen's family was naturally on the guest list. I was admitted to Beihang University. Both the school and the program were my top choices. On the day of the celebration banquet, Wenshua sat silently in his wheelchair lost in thought, while I was surrounded by relatives and friends chatting and laughing. When the classmates clamored for a group photo at the end, everyone eagerly gathered together. Only Wenshua remained motionless, gripping the wheelchair armrests tightly. Wenshua, come up here, aren't you two the closest? Sui Sui is leaving for university. Exactly. Everyone knows you two grew up together since childhood. Come on up. Wenshua pursed his lips and remained still, but two boys ran down and without a word moved him along with his wheelchair up to the platform. It's just that back then, he was the wealthy and handsome top student who was always the center of attention wherever he went. This time, no one gave him the central C spot. Later, when I looked at the group photo, I realized Wenshua had been placed at the very edge of the crowd. On the night before school started, Wenshua actually came knocking on my door. After opening the door, I instinctively looked straight ahead, and only when I saw no one at eye level did I lower my gaze to see Wenshua sitting in a wheelchair. He smiled self-deprecatingly. I guess from now on, you'll only be looking down at me. Can we go out for a walk? I wanted to refuse, but my mother whispered behind me. Wenshua has been cooped up at home for so long, and he's finally willing to go out. Please accompany him for a walk. A habit from my past life. Whenever I see a wheelchair, I feel the urge to push it. I forcibly withdrew my hand and walked ahead. The roads in the villa district were spacious, with Wenshua sitting in a wheelchair walking alongside me. Congratulations on getting into your favorite school. I politely yet distantly said thank you. But then Wenshua immediately took out his exam admission ticket. He smiled bitterly. What a coincidence. The school you're going to is the one I wanted to attend, but I'll never have the chance now. Xiao Sui Sui, please take my exam admission ticket with you too. This is all I can do in this lifetime. He handed me his exam admission ticket, but I didn't take it. Maybe someday Su Firan will take you to fulfill that dream. I absent-mindedly swatted at non-existent mosquitoes by my legs. There are too many mosquitoes, let's head back first. Wen Shui felt a momentary loneliness, but didn't say anything. As they walked, Wen Shui gradually fell behind. I frowned and turned to look, only then noticing his wheelchair was stuck on a rock. When our eyes met, his face was full of embarrassment, yet he stubbornly said, "Don't mind me, it's just a small rock, I've got this." "Okay," I nodded and went straight home. 10. Su Firan and I started school on the same day. At the high-speed rail station, we happened to run into Wen Shui and Su Firan saying goodbye. Wen Shui secretly slipped Su Firan a bank card. "Don't let yourself suffer at school." After receiving the money, Su Firan couldn't wait to enter the station, prompting Wen Shui to quickly add one last remark: "If you have time, remember to come back." To this, Su Firan gave no response. College life turned out to be far more fulfilling than I had imagined. Plus, it's a major I'm genuinely interested in, making my college life feel incredibly joyful. I think my past self must have been completely insane. To think I gave up so much just for a man. This time, I've experienced everything I never got to do in my previous life. After the semester ended, I specifically went abroad to skydive before returning home. Aunt Su came to my house again that night, anxiously asking, "Sui, have all universities gone on break during this period? Firan still hasn't come back yet." I raised an eyebrow. "It's already been a month-long holiday. I even went abroad for a trip and came back." "Auntie, Su Firan and I don't go to the same school. Maybe there's some special situation on her side." Aunt Su nodded with a worried expression. "Auntie doesn't want to keep this child trapped either. But she was the one who initially proposed being willing to get engaged. Our family fulfilled all our promises, yet now she's nowhere to be found. That child Wen Shui is stubborn to a fault. He's lost over 20 pounds these past few months." Sigh. Frowning, I reluctantly asked a classmate to inquire about Su Firan's school at Auntie Su's pleading. The answer we got was that university had let out half a month earlier than ours. My mom was frantic. "I have to tell Aunt Su, if you don't want to get engaged, then don't. Wen Shui has been waiting at home day and night." "What kind of situation is this?" I stopped my mom. "I'll never do a favor that ends up causing me trouble again." After another week or so, Su Firan finally came back. She was dressed head to toe in designer brands, looking every bit the socialite. According to my mom, Wen Shui finally started showing some smiles, but over the next month, Wen Shui grew increasingly haggard. Uncle Wen and Aunt Su seemed to have aged 10 years in just 6 months. Uncle Wen, who had never bowed his back before, even came to my house to borrow money. My father didn't hesitate to take out a card. "Old Wen, what on earth happened? How did it come to this?" Our family and the Wen family were on equal footing. Even if something happened to Wen Shui, they would never be reduced to having no money. Uncle Wen let out a long sigh and only spoke after a long while. "Su Firan said she wants to study abroad. But the cost is staggering. If we don't support her, she'll call off the engagement." Wen Shui's condition has been unstable. During a recent hospital checkup, it suddenly worsened. The doctor said they might have to amputate. Wen Shui's mother and I have truly reached our limits. Even after Uncle Wen left, my parents were still shaking their heads in disbelief. Is Wen Shui really that inseparable from Su Firan? The family fortune is almost drained. I asked curiously. Is Uncle Wen's company not doing well? My parents sighed in unison. Wen Shui's unlicensed driving incident was exposed, and your Uncle Wen's company suffered greatly. They just paid a hefty penalty not long ago. I nodded. When I tossed and turned unable to sleep at night, I came across Su Firan's social media post. She had updated many photos and videos of herself dancing, but looking at her dance partner, I couldn't help feeling somewhat familiar. 11. Not long after, I coincidentally ran into Su Firan and a guy on the street. The two were even holding hands, appearing extremely intimate. Only when I saw him in person did I suddenly remember. This guy was actually from our high school. When Su Firan glanced in this direction, I instinctively hid and then secretly followed her. "Firan, would the Wen family really be willing to give you 6 million? That's no small amount. You really dare to ask for the moon, don't you?" Su Firan coquettishly retorted. "You're one to talk. Doesn't that 6 million include your share? Don't you want to go abroad for further studies with me? As long as that cripple Wen Shui can't live without me, his family has no choice but to accept their fate. Luckily you made that bet with me back then, to see if Wen Shui would abandon his college entrance exams to chase after me if I broke up with him. That's what made him a cripple. All our current happiness is built upon Wen Shui's disability." The boy smiled, kissed Su Firan on the cheek, and even patted her, but I froze in shock. Sufiran actually did it on purpose. Wen Shuo would resort to emotional blackmail to be with the one he loved, while Sufiran would gamble with someone's legs at stake. They are truly a match made in heaven. Wen Shuo got what he deserved, but Aunt Sue and Uncle Wen were the real victims who got dragged into this. It wasn't until evening that the man brought Sufiran back. I glanced at the car, it was worth millions. So the Wen family's money was all spent on this man, spending money like flowing water. No wonder the Wen family went bankrupt. Sufiran froze when she saw me, a flash of guilt crossing her face. She wanted to return directly to the Wen family, but I blocked her path. What are you doing? I couldn't be bothered to waste words with her, so I got straight to the point and showed the photos I'd just taken. Wen Shuo might be a fool, but Uncle Wen and Aunt Sue certainly aren't. If you insist on demanding an exorbitant amount of money, don't blame me for making everything you've gained go up in smoke. Sufiran froze for a moment, anger flashing across her face. Mind your own business. Wen Shuo is just a cripple now. Why should I, a young girl in the prime of my life, waste my whole life on a cripple? Besides, it was him who forced me into this by threatening suicide. He brought this upon himself. But what about Wen Shuo's parents? I hissed in a suppressed voice. Did Wen Shuo's parents deserve to be drained dry by you too? They should have been enjoying their retirement peacefully like my parents. But now they're reduced to bowing and borrowing money from everyone because of your mess. I don't care how you treat Wen Shuo, but you're not allowed to ruin Uncle Wen and Aunt Sue like this. After delivering my warning, I turned around and went straight home. 2 days later, Aunt Sue finally showed a faint smile on her face. She returned the card she borrowed from our family. Wen Shuo has been begging Firan these past 2 days, and she agreed not to go abroad for now. Thank you all. We probably won't need this money for the time being. My parents both breathed a sigh of relief. It seems Sufiran was genuinely afraid of losing the Wen family's cash cow. I didn't listen further. This was all the help I could offer them, with school starting soon. I've been busy meeting up and dining with high school friends every day. But when I returned that evening, I saw Wen Shuo sitting motionless in his wheelchair outside. I was genuinely startled for a moment when I saw how gaunt he looked. He caught my subtle change of expression and gave a self-deprecating smile. Did I scare you? I really haven't had much appetite lately. Instead of answering, I glanced at the lit lights in their house. What are you sitting here for? Wen Shuo looked at me, his eyes gradually turning red. I frowned. If there's nothing else, I'll head back. Don't go. For some reason, Wen Shuo's voice actually choked up slightly as he spoke. My parents went to the company and won't be back tonight because of work. Sufiran brought his dance partner over to our house to hang out. I raised my eyebrows, somewhat surprised by how bold Sufiran was being, but on the surface, he calmly responded with a sound. So what are you trying to say? Wen Shuo's Adam's apple bobbed, and the words he spoke utterly shocked me. Sway. If I break off the engagement with Sufiran, can we be together? I've seen clearly now. Sufiran never had genuine feelings for me. Only you and I share true sincerity. Suppressing a cold laugh, I asked. And then, Wen Shuo's eyes lit up, as if seeing hope, he said urgently, I believe my leg will definitely recover as long as it gets proper care. Sway, how about you go study nursing? Once my leg heals, I'll start a business and make sure you live more gloriously than now. With every word Wen Shuo spoke, my heart grew colder. By the end, I was almost certain that Wen Shuo had been reborn just like me. The originally tranquil night suddenly turned gloomy, and a bolt of lightning struck down. Wen Shuo's face looked frenzied under the lightning's glow. Sway, we'd definitely have a better life together than now. I know you like me. Let's give it a try. Okay, I laughed. It's you who would drain my value. You're the one who'd live better than now, aren't you? You succeed in your startup, then say I'm just a nanny. Wen Shuo, why should I give up aerospace studies just to help you recover? Wen Shuo froze completely. You too. I took a step closer, enunciating each word deliberately. Wen Shuo, you've gotten your wish in this lifetime. A flash of devastation crossed Wen Shuo's face as he stood frozen in place, as if struck by lightning. I'm now a top-tier university aerospace student, destined to become an astronaut. But what about you? A disabled person like you, how could you ever match up to me? After saying this, I turned around and went home. The moment I closed the door, thunder cracked outside with a sharp clap. Xiao Sway, I was wrong last time. Sway, my mom walked by with a glass of milk. Is someone calling you outside? No, it's thunder. You must have misheard. As soon as the words were spoken, rain began pouring down outside with a pitter-patter. Wen Shuo was drenched in the rain, straining to turn the wheels, but the wheelchair remained immobile. 13. Early the next morning, my parents were ready to take me to the high-speed rail station to return to school. But the car had only driven a few dozen meters when both police cars, 110, and ambulances, 120, entered our neighborhood. It's been such an eventful time lately. What's happened to which family now? When I saw the police car parked outside Winshua's house, my dad slammed on the brakes. It's the Wen family. My right eye twitched as I suddenly remembered what Winshua said last night. And my parents went to the company. They have something to attend to and won't be back tonight. Sufiran brought his dance partner home to hang out. The police broke down the door, and paramedics carried out a white shrouded body on a stretcher. My mother's legs gave way, but fortunately I caught her. Who died? Just as the words were spoken, when Zhua and another boy were carried out alive, the relief my parents had just felt vanished instantly. Who is this boy? Where are old Wen and his wife? Call them now. I was about to say that Uncle Wen and his wife weren't here. But as Wen Zhua was carried past me, he grabbed my sleeve, and only then did I see the blood covering his entire body. Let go. The medical staff tried with all their might but couldn't pry his hands open, so they had no choice but to look at me helplessly. He has multiple stab wounds. The bleeding won't stop. His organs might be punctured. We can't afford to waste any time now. Why don't you come along in the car? I gave Wen Zhua a cold look, refusing to be morally coerced, and directly took off my own sun protective jacket. Wen Zhua was sent to the hospital, and my parents called to inform Uncle Wen's family. Meanwhile, my parents went to the police station to help understand the situation. The man was sobbing uncontrollably in the police station. I really didn't mean to kill anyone. I was just defending myself. That cripple was a lunatic. He didn't want to live anymore and tried to kill us in the middle of the night. If I hadn't been a light sleeper, I would have been killed for sure. This is so unfair. I swear I didn't intend to kill anyone. The policeman slammed the table angrily. Then why would he try to kill you for no reason? The man fell silent for a moment before spouting nonsense. In their past life, Wen Shua's first love Sufiran broke up with him on the day of the college entrance exam. No, I scoffed. You don't even know Wen Shua, so why would you spend the night at his place? The police officer's gaze was sharp. Leniency for those who confess, severity for those who resist. If you want probation, you'd better come clean. Only after intense coercion and inducements did he finally reveal his relationship with Sufiran. It was just last night when Winshua's parents weren't home. Sufiran wanted some excitement, so she brought me back. The two of us did it right in front of Winshua, but who knew that cripple would have such a fiery temper? Instead of sleeping at night, he actually crawled over trying to kill someone. Look, I'm injured too. My mother went mad with anger upon hearing this and immediately gave that person a thorough scolding. Meanwhile, Uncle Wen's call also came through. Old Xiao, is Sui Sui at home? The doctor said Wen Shua's resuscitation failed, and now he's lying here calling Sui Sui's name. Could you let Sui Sui come see Wen Shua one last time? The boy, he refuses to let go. I frowned and shook my head at Dad. It was the first time he'd lied to Uncle Wen. Sorry, old Wen, Sui Sui has already taken the high-speed train back to school. Sorry, Uncle Wen and Auntie Sue. I never want to see Wen Shua again. I returned to school very soon, and that evening when I arrived, my mom sent me a message. Wen Shua is still holding on, still keeps muttering something about being sorry. What kind of fate is this for Uncle Wen and Aunt Sue? At 5 a.m. the next morning, my mom's message came through again. Let's go. Pressing my lips together, I hesitated before replying. Please comfort Uncle Wen and Aunt Sue properly. As for Wen Shua, may we never meet again in this life or the next. For years later, I graduated with my bachelor's degree and was admitted to a combined master's and doctoral program. No matter what, I've fulfilled my lifelong dream in this lifetime. The end.